just the extent of the devastation. So we'll continue to keep an eye on all of that. Many crews scattered all over the Hill Country, including Courtney Friedman, who is in Kerrville for us this afternoon. Courtney, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ernie. So as we've been standing here since the noon started, we have seen 6 helicopters. The 6 just passed as we were in the last commercial break. They're hovering. They're very low to the river, which is over my shoulder and is very full. We're hoping that means rescue operations are continuous and hopefully successful. We have seen them going this way mainly, which is southeast. So, of course, we don't know whether people are being taken towards San Antonio or maybe just locally, but we have seen these helicopters moving consistently. And so we do actually have those tail numbers, and they're different. So it's not just the same exact helicopter going back and forth. There are multiple rescue helicopters. You can tell how hard these first responders are working. We know that people are still missing. We know that people have passed away. So hopefully these are rescue missions, not recovery missions. And of course, we talked to someone earlier this morning whose cousin had their RV swept away, luckily survived, and a lot of them have lived there for decades and decades. And he said he went through the '87 flood. I know Sarah Spivey was talking about that earlier, that devastating flood of '87, and he said this one's worse. Take a listen.
I was here for '87, like I said. Now that was the largest flood ever. You know, washed away those kids in Comfort and the buses, and they had the helicopter rescues and all that. So I was here for that one, and this is worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and Sarah Costa earlier had talked about the tone. I know, Japhanie, you had talked about the prayers coming in. We're keeping up with a lot of the community members through their Facebook pages. There's a lot of Hill Country, Kerrville Facebook pages where everyone's sending in a lot of their pictures and prayers. I do just want to add how supportive this community is on our way up here. As I mentioned at the top of the show, there was a woman that we ran into. We were in the restroom, all of us waiting to use the restroom, a line of women, and one of them said she had just lost multiple friends in this flood. And so the person next to me actually ended up, we all grabbed hands and she prayed for everybody. So there is that sense of community. There are people from out of town because obviously it is a holiday, but there is a lot of support here in this community, and it's a tad uplifting in such a dark day. Obviously, we're going to be looking out for any more of these helicopters that come by, but it is very clear that these first responders are in go mode because we have seen them passing consistently here. So I'm going to toss it back to you, but we do have video of those helicopters and those rescuers that you can see there through the windows of the helicopters, and we'll get that to you as soon as we can. For now, back to you.
All right, Courtney Friedman, thank you. Safely high above, I think she said on the third story or third deck of a parking garage, a parking structure there in Kerrville, so she's fine. But she does kind of have a bird's eye view of just the unbelievable devastation there this morning and into the afternoon.
Yeah, so you guys stick around. Again, this team coverage is going to happen all day long. We are all team Kerrville, Kerr County, getting everybody kind of the information they need to know. We're going to have a more of a breakdown of your weather, more of what the conditions are looking like from the boots on the ground that are there. And again, we're still asking you guys to be our eyes and ears from the scene of places that we cannot highlight, sending in your photos and videos in a safe way to our KSAT Connect pages.
Yeah, and you see the radar behind us still, and I think a lot of people will wonder if this will impact the 4th of July festivities in San Antonio as well, because obviously we're into the afternoon hours now, and plenty of things scheduled for in and around San Antonio all day long. So Sarah Spivey will break all of that down. For those of you who still have plans for later on this evening, we mentioned obviously 4th of July events have been canceled in a lot of places in the Hill Country, and if possible, you follow their social media pages and find out more about that.
All right, stick around, stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break. Coming up on 108 right now. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. We're going wall to wall with coverage of what we've been calling a very catastrophic, deadly flooding event.
And we have a number of crews out that have been out for many hours, and we're getting these are just some of the many pieces of video and images that are coming in. Alice Gomez, I think, gave us this earlier this morning. Right, and that was that portable structure, that double wide, that house that was clearly swept off of its wheels or foundation.
Full trees and trunks, like it's just
propane tanks we've seen.
A lot.
We did see vehicles. People obviously wading in ankle deep, knee deep water in some cases, and we know, of course, it was a lot higher. We saw this where rescuers were trying to go in with their inflatable boats against the current, literally grabbing onto tree branches, just trying to get some momentum. And then this was the water up against the bridges earlier.
Yeah. So right now we got meteorologist Sarah Spivey. She's been in here breaking down all of it, everything that you need to know from when this may end. Sarah, you've been busy.
Yes, and I can give you some good news right now that the rain is starting to lighten up quite a bit. We're not dealing with that torrential downpours that we saw earlier today. I want to reset and give you an idea of what we're dealing with. Here is a look at the current shower and storm situation across the hill country and across San Antonio. I want to put your minds at ease. In San Antonio, we are not expecting flooding. All we're dealing with right now is some light rain that is causing a hiccup to your 4th of July plans. That's all we're dealing with right now. Even in the hill country, the rain that is falling is moderate at the moment, but that rainfall is on top of an impressive and dangerous amount of rain that has fallen since about midnight. This is a look at the rain since about midnight. You can see that these pockets of purple here is where the heaviest of the rain fell in Kendall County and also near Fredericksburg, 7 inches of rain, northern Bandera County, and in Kirk County, 10 to 12 inches of rain. The most dangerous thing that's happening right now, even though the rain is starting to let up, is the fact that we have got devastating flooding on Guadalupe River. All of Guadalupe River from Kerrville to Kendall County is flooding right now, and it's going to flood in Spring Branch. And here's the reason why. Here is a look at Highway 39 or Road 39 there, okay? Can you see how it's windy? That's because that follows the river, Guadalupe River, very closely. In fact, that road is probably likely underwater. Since midnight, in these areas, in places up to 12 inches, a foot of rain has fallen at the start of the river here, and all of that water has to go somewhere. And so when we look at the warnings that are in effect along the Guadalupe, we have got flood warnings in effect from Hunt and Ingram through Kerrville, through Center Point to Comfort. In these areas, the river waters are starting to recede. The flood waters along the Guadalupe are starting to recede. It's still flooding, which is why we've got a flood warning. But from Comfort to Spring Branch, the river is rising, and it is expected to rise pretty dramatically all the way to Canyon Lake in Comal County. In fact, I'm going to show you the river gauge in Spring Branch, the forecast river gauge in Spring Branch here. I'm stepping off of my screen so that I can bring this up for you. This is a look at Spring Branch. Here's a look at where it is currently. It's currently sitting at about a foot, okay, 2 feet. Observed, but it is expected to rise to 37 feet moderate flood stage in Spring Branch by potentially this afternoon or this evening. So that is the dramatic situation that we're dealing with right now along the Guadalupe River from Comfort to Spring Branch. So Spring Branch is in Comal County. All of Kendall County around Guadalupe River going to have to be on alert. One thing you may be asking is, what about Canyon Lake? Let's go ahead and take a look at that again. What about Canyon Lake? So Canyon Lake is only 40-some-odd% full. All of this water is going into Canyon Lake, and it's got some time before it's full or before it even needs to be released to New Braunfels. So there should not be any flooding issues from this event in New Braunfels along the Guadalupe. But if you have friends and family from Comfort to Spring Branch along that river, they need to be to higher ground because, again, it's going to rise by 30 feet. We've also got some flooding on Medina River between Bandera and Medina Lake. This is a smaller area. It's expected to rise to 17 feet, so a smaller amount of flooding, but still dangerous flooding nonetheless from Bandera to Medina Lake. And a reminder that Medina Lake is only 2% full. All of this water is going to flow into Medina Lake. We'll probably see it rise a little bit, but it will not be full. 2% full is a long way to go. Let's go ahead and go back to the radar here as I take a wider view. Again, you can see that we're dealing with some light rain, and this entire system is pretty slowly moving at about 20 miles per hour. So it's got some time before it clears out. The light rain has got some time before it clears out. But what we're forecasting right now, I'm going to track the clearing line here. When the rain is going to stop, it should stop for the Kerrville area close to about 3. Again, we have that press conference that we'll take live on KSAT at 3 about the rescues, fatalities from this horrible event, etc. We'll take that at 3 o'clock, right when the rain is expected to start to end. And then for San Antonio, I think we're still going to have some light rain through about 5 o'clock. So your backyard barbecues for the 4th of July, unfortunately, probably going to have some rain. But if you can find some cover, you should be okay. You should still be able to enjoy some time outdoors. And I think for the most part, firework displays should go off without a hitch tonight. So that's the quick forecast for you for the San Antonio area. Although, of course, our thoughts and our prayers are with everybody along the Guadalupe in the hill country for the risk for more flooding. If you've been paying attention to KSAT since about 4 o'clock, you know that we've been adjusting the forecast based off of what we see. And what I can tell you now is that I think there is slightly a less chance for rain tomorrow. At first I had about a 60% chance. Now we're going down to 40. Still a chance for some showers and storms, especially in the first part of the day, but less of a chance in the afternoon. And Sunday will be dry and hot at 93 degrees. There's a lot to talk about this flood event out in Guadalupe River. Many people are comparing it to the 1987 flood. Here's a look at that 1987 flood. Nearly a foot of rain fell. Let me bring that back up for you. Nearly a foot of rain fell near Hunt. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happened today. About a foot of rain fell near Hunt. And the river flooded near Comfort, and the Guadalupe rose and unfortunately swept away the school bus, and children died. The Guadalupe rose by 29 feet at that time. The Guadalupe has risen by more than that, about 30 plus feet today. So this is a more intense flood than what they dealt with back in 1987. If you're familiar with this region at all, you know that our major droughts tend to end in major floods, and that's exactly what we're seeing at the moment. This area has been under exceptional drought, and we're likely going to see drought eliminated in a good portion of this area because of this devastating, deadly flood. We're also probably going to see the aquifer rise here in San Antonio, which is San Antonio's main source of water. Now, it's not going to rise as dramatically as it did a couple of weeks ago because a lot of the rain that's fallen has fallen on the contributing zone in the hill country. That trickles down eventually and gets into the recharge zone. But in order to see the aquifer rise by fairly substantial amounts, we have to see that water fall along the recharge zone here. And some rain has fallen along the recharge zone, but not nearly as much as what we saw a couple of weeks ago. So just to summarize, light rain coming to an end here by 5 p.m. in San Antonio. If you are along the Guadalupe River in Kendall County, Comal County, before you get to Canyon Lake, you need to seek higher ground because the river is expected to rise. We're going to be back with more news for you after this break.
All right. Yeah, no, it's okay.
That's okay.
Hey,
That's
it's
all right.
okay. We're going wall to wall. I think right now we got our very own Daniela Ibarra. She also is out and about, one of our crews on scene, and they're ready to take her. She's in Ingram. Daniela, what's going on?
Yeah, so we're just at a field that's right behind the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department, and I want to give you a look. This is the Guadalupe River, and the water here is just rushing. We actually have Tammy from the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department who's keeping an eye on it because she says if it gets too high, we got to go. So you can see the water rushing by. So Tammy says that usually this river is about half the width of what it is, but look over here. You can see some of the trees that were washed by the rainwater overnight, that flood water. You can see some of the broken planks, some of the trash in here. And so one of the things that Tammy told me is that, you know, the water has been rushing. It's wider than it usually is. But just to give you perspective, I'm about 5'2". The water was over my head earlier this morning, about a couple hours ago. It's actually our photographer, Josh Saunders, is over 6 feet tall, is over his height too. And over here to my left, there's a field. When we were coming in, we saw a car in the middle of the field, and Tammy, who's standing right over there, she told us that that car was actually washed over here by the flood water. So it just shows you how powerful the water is. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because I know we're keeping an eye on the water back here, but we're going to be in Ingram all throughout the evening, hopefully talking to some people who were able to make it out of their house, and hopefully talking to some of the people who have been doing some of the rescuing. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Daniela Ibarra for us in Ingram this afternoon. I keep wanting to say morning, but we're well into the 1 o'clock hour. And again, if you're just joining us, we are standing by at 3 o'clock. They are scheduled to have a press conference. We heard from some Kerr County officials earlier, around 11:30. And I think, if I'm being honest, some people were a little disappointed by some of the lack of information that was given in terms of just some of the specifics that they were looking for. But nonetheless, we understand that this is an evolving situation. And so 3 o'clock is the next time that we are told we are going to hear from authorities once again.
And we want to remind people right there, this is our Weather Authority app. It's very easy for you to download, okay? So we want you guys, please download the KSAT Weather Authority app for free. If you haven't done so already, the easiest way to stay up to date with the weather and when the power goes out. And the best part, again, it is free to download. And it's also the easiest way for us to be in the know with where you're located if you can go through the KSAT Connect feature that is on that app as well. So again, download it, Weather Authority app. It is free. You can get it right now. And of course, scan that QR code to do so if you need it and haven't gotten it yet.
Okay, so many crews out and about for us, continuing to work hard for us on this breaking story. We are going to take a quick little break, come back and check in with some of those crews after a break.
came knocking on the door, and it was like 5, and it was Marie saying, "Get out, the rain's coming up the road. Come on, get up, get out, get out."
Getting input from all over that community that was hit hard by heavy rainfall.
Just one of the many accounts, if you will, of what must have been a just horrific overnight 4th of July for so many people in Kirk County who were just literally inundated with all this water. So we continue our coverage here on KSAT 12 as we are approaching the bottom of the hour here. But again, we have a number of crews scattered all over the Hill Country for you this afternoon, including Patty Santos, who was a short time ago at the Ingram Volunteer Fire Department and has more.
We're inside the Ingram Volunteer Department where a lot of the setup, a lot of the people that have been rescued are ending up. Steffi is one of those victims. Tell me, where exactly did you live?
I lived a couple blocks that way in a 1940 cottage that had never been flooded before at the Hill Country Art Foundation.
And you told me you heard banging?
I heard banging about 5 o'clock this morning, and I thought it was a tree limb. I knew we had a long, steady rain and a lot of lightning, but I didn't know it was that kind of rain. And so I went out, I looked out the window, and I had literally water completely around me.
And so you decided it's time to get out, right? You start trying to make an exit, and what happened?
I opened my front door and looked, and my car was starting to be underwater, and my yard was in water, but I thought I could still get through it. So I was trying to throw a few things together and grab my cat and my dog. And that was like an extra 4 minutes. And when I went back and opened the door, the water had come up, and I knew I couldn't move my car. And so I set the stuff aside, and I grabbed my cat and I grabbed my dog and lost a shoe plowing through the water. My cat went off that way. I still don't know where he is. We were trying to get through to another higher ground, and my dog got caught by the water. And I got to safety, and I just had to break in the window until I could, at 7 o'clock, break into another building to call and get help. And they came and got me, and my dog, in the meanwhile, miraculously showed up, and he's alive and well.
Yeah. This is, what's his name?
His name is Nishkin.
Nishkin. And so he's 13, he survived, you survived. You said to myself, there is no way I am dying in a Texas flood.
I'm trying to climb up on the roof and having a hard time. I'm 74 and I'm climbing up on this roof, and I couldn't, and so my brain was just scrambling because it's water and it kills. I don't know what to do. I know I need to get down. I need to do something, and I just said, I'll be damned if I die in a Texas flood. I've been through a lot, and I've had lost friends, and I just wasn't, and I feel very blessed considering other lives that have been lost today.
And so the fire department showed up and got you out?
I broke into an office where I could access a phone when there was enough light to see to get in there, called, and literally these guys were over there because it's right down there. Literally in less than 5 minutes, I see emergency vehicles coming in. Yeah. So.
And now you're here. You're so grateful for the help that you've gotten. You made some friends.
I met my buddy Melton here, who was greeting me, helped me get a dry shirt, and helped me with my dog. He got food for my dog and water. He's been here for hours. And he's just a great young man, Melton. Melton the man.
Thank you so much, and I am so glad that you are okay, that you survived, and that your dog also made it, but we still have to go check out your home and see how that's looking, okay?
Yeah, Mudville.
All right, well, thank you so much. And
thank you.
Those are the kind of stories that we are hearing here in Ingram this morning and today, and we'll probably be hearing more of these stories, and you can stay with KSAT, of course, to continue to bring you that coverage.
Filled with so much spirit of inspiration and hope. So thank God for her situation. I pray that God she gets a chance to rebuild. Okay, so we have been asking you guys to send us a lot of your KSAT pics, your KSAT videos that you can get to us safely from areas that are safe and convenient. But I do want to mention this. Those who have done so safely without being in the way of things, we appreciate you. But I did just cut this off of the City of Kerrville Police Department Facebook page. This came in. I don't know what's going on in certain areas, but I just know it just says that our KPD team, Kerrville Fire Department, and other first responders having to deal with heavy traffic and people congregating to look at the floodwaters as they try and continue to rescue and recovery operations. This incident not over, and now it is not the time to go look at the river. Please help us by steering clear and giving us room to work. That is very clear as day. Again, this is one of those situations that you got to stay out of the way. And as Courtney Freeman has been saying, it has been go time for all of our first responders. And the last thing they need to worry about is while they're trying to rescue and save someone else, then they have to turn around and save you because you went out and tried to get video or footage of something of this historic event. Yes, it's a historic event. There are going to be several videos out and about. Let the professionals do that. And again, if you're at home, if you're on your property, if you're in a safe area, that's the only time that we're asking you to send in your videos or photos or anything, but do not go and seek areas that you know first responders are busy. Do not interfere with that operation because we got to get everybody to safely as soon as possible. We're going to keep our coverage going wall to wall. Again, a press conference that's going to start around 3 o'clock. We're going into that, showing you that here live, but we got Sarah Spivey in the room. She's going to keep on going on with your weather updates, got traffic updates. We got everything that you need to know as far as what's happening with this big event. We'll stay around. We'll be right back after this short break. And welcome back. It is 1:32. We're keeping that wall-to-wall coverage for you. And again, a very active radar behind us.
It really is stunning how little this has changed, relatively speaking. And you and I have been here, obviously, since 5 a.m. this morning. And we'll continue as long as it takes. But, you know, similar to a few weeks ago when this played out here in San Antonio and we were comparing to previous floods, a lot of people have found themselves reminiscing to some of the floods over the years, including 1987. And I know, Sarah, you kind of did a deep dive on this as well. And going back to, what is that, 38 years ago?
That's right.
You know, devastating flooding that obviously took lives back then, and just kind of comparing. And I think by most estimates, if not all estimates, this is worse than that.
Yeah.
It is certainly shaping up that way, Ernie, to be worse and more historic than the 1987 flood. First of all, I want to just show you a picture of what's happening right now. We're getting some light rain here in San Antonio. We're not concerned about flooding in San Antonio. That is a big point to make. You do not have to worry about flooding in San Antonio. Just some light rain interrupting your 4th of July plans. The thing is, though, earlier today, there was quite a bit of rain that fell in Kerr County and in parts of northern Medina County. I want you to pay very close attention to this map here, because in a second I'm going to compare it to 1987's map. You can see north of Hunt in Kerr County and southwest of Hunt. This is a very large area where we have seen since about midnight, in many cases, 12 inches of rain, up to a foot of rainfall in a very large portion of the county. I'm going to step off to the side and pull up a KSAT article that's online about the 1987 flood. And you might have to come close to your screen for this, just because of the nature of this, this website. But here is a look at the Hunt flooding back in 1987. Remember how I said that the about 9 to 10 inches to 12 inches of rain covered this much of the portion of Kerr County? Here's a look back in 1987. We saw about a foot of rainfall just to the west of Hunt. So more rain has fallen in this event than ever did back in 1987. Now, it was still a devastating event in 1987 because, unfortunately, children died in a school bus in Comfort that was impacted by the floodwaters itself. But you can see clearly a much larger area of very heavy rain than back in 1987. It is worth noting, though, we know that our droughts end in floods. These kinds of floods, even though they only happen every 15 to 30 years, they do happen. And here's a look back in 1987 again of what happened on July 16th. So even the time of year is around the same, too. Back in 1987, nearly a foot of rain fell near Hunt. And unfortunately, a school bus was picked up by the waters of the Guadalupe near Comfort, and children died. Now, back then, 29 feet is what the Guadalupe rose to. The Guadalupe has risen higher this time than it did back in 1987. So we are looking at an event that is technically worse than it was back in 1987. But when you're talking about loss of life, both of these events absolutely tragic for us. Let's go ahead and take a wider view. How much rain has fallen in northern Kendall County, just to the northeast of Comfort? About 7 inches of rain. And even in Bandera County along Medina River, we've seen about 7 inches of rain as well. So when we look at the radar in the current situation, it's almost like you look outside, it's not that bad. It's just light rain, moderate rain falling. That is good news. We need this to come to an end. But all of that rain that fell in Kerr County went into the Guadalupe River, and all of that has to drain out, and it is going to take a long time. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the warnings that are going on the Guadalupe River right now. As we speak, from Hunt to Kerrville to Center Point to Comfort, the floodwaters of the Guadalupe are starting to recede. It's still flooding, but it's starting to recede. Now, from Comfort through Kendall County out to Spring Branch, the waters of the Guadalupe are rising. In fact, the waters are not all that high on the Guadalupe right now in Spring Branch. I do not want you to let your guard down. If you are, or friends or family are along the river of the Guadalupe River, along the banks there, you need to seek high ground, because this warning is in effect for Spring Branch. It's expected to rise to 30 feet above where it is right now. So please pass along the message to friends and family in that area that they need to be on high alert. And if they see the waters of the river rising, and the river will rise, they need to seek higher ground, at least 30 feet above where the river is. That is important to note. You also may be wondering, okay, what about the river between Canyon Lake and New Braunfels? This is important to note. All of this river water is flowing into Canyon Lake, which is only 40-some-odd% full. So Canyon Lake is going to catch a lot of this flood water. It will rise, and I doubt they'll have to release a lot of that water downstream toward New Braunfels. So we're probably not going to be seeing major flooding along the Guadalupe River near New Braunfels. We'll keep you posted. That is the Guadalupe River. Everybody needs to be on high alert if you are near the Guadalupe River. You also need to be on high alert of the Medina River. Now, as I mentioned, about 7 inches of rain fell near Bandera. Medina River is under a flood warning because it's expected to rise by 17 feet, and Medina Lake is only 2% full. So all that river and that water is going to flow into a pretty empty lake. This is one of the reasons why these lakes were designed, is to catch the floodwaters in the rivers themselves. We will keep you posted about all of that. We're going to keep our eyes on things. The biggest thing to know is that right now in San Antonio, we're only seeing some light rain, causing a bit of issues for your 4th of July plans, but we can even track the clearing line here. Now, this is very slowly moving at 15 to 20 miles per hour. So there is a good chance that this rain is going to clear out for the Kerrville area here. We can track the clearing line by about 240, 250. And we're still on track for that. Just a reminder that we do have that press conference coming out at 3 where we're hoping that we can get some clarity on people missing, loss of life, what the plans are from now on for Kerr County. We'll keep you posted on that. This clearing line will probably be through San Antonio by 5 o'clock. So I fully expect some light rain, moderate rain at times up until 5 p.m. here in San Antonio. And I want to get to your 4th of July forecast here in San Antonio, because we do have a lot of plans, of course, outdoors. Right now, through about 5, expect light rain. You can still have your backyard barbecues as long as the thunder, as long as you're not outside during thunder and lightning, and we're really seeing the thunder and lightning come to an end here. Just find some kind of shelter to be underneath. And then by the evening, by sunset, I do think we'll only have a 20% chance for a stray shower. So firework displays for the most part should go off without a hitch. That is something to keep in mind, though. And meteorologist Adam Caskey is in here, and he's going to be looking over the latest data as well. Again, Guadalupe River flooding, Medina River flooding between Bandera and Medina Lake. Guadalupe is flooding all the way from Hunt through New Braunfels. And in fact, that is a long distance. Let's go ahead and take a look at that distance. Through Canyon Lake, not New Braunfels. That's where the river could be flooding. That's over a 70-mile period. So please, please, please do not let your guard down just because there's some light rain. Ernie, do you have an update for us?
And I probably didn't mean to jump in. I just wanted to, because you're talking about this right now. So the Kendall County Office of Emergency Management just put out a new statement or new information minutes ago. And to your point, they're saying floodwaters have reached FM 1376 in Sisterdale, and the Guadalupe has risen 30 feet in an hour.
Yes, this is what I'm talking about here. For all morning long, the Guadalupe River at Sisterdale has been pretty low, but it's risen by 30 feet in an hour, you said?
That's what they're saying.
Yes, this is why it is so important that along the Guadalupe, if you have friends and family anywhere in Kendall County along the Guadalupe, they need to, better safe than sorry, just go ahead and seek higher ground right now. Grab your pets, grab any precious things that you might have if you're right along the river, and head to higher ground. You've got about an hour to do that, so go for that, do that. As we take a look again at the drought conditions, remember how I said our droughts tend to end in floods. This is exactly what we are seeing. We have exceptional drought across Kerrville, down to Hondo, down to western Bexar County, but a lot of rain has fallen over this area. In fact, we can see, I outlined the drought here. This is how much rain has fallen over these areas. 12 inches of rain inside of that exceptional drought situation. So we are going to see improvement to the drought, if not complete elimination of the drought. It just comes at the expense of this devastating flood for us, unfortunately. As we take a look at the rest of your 7-day forecast here in San Antonio, As I'm combing through the data, there is a chance that we could see some more rain late tonight into early tomorrow. But then after tomorrow afternoon, things should really start to dry out for us. Into the Sunday forecast, we'll be at 93. So people traveling home to San Antonio on Sunday, there should not be any major weather issues. And then it does look like we clear out next week in a big way. We're going to be back with more news after this break.
Yeah.
When you slept at her house on June 24th, did the two girls share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And you shared a room with her?
Yes, ma'am.
So that was the sometimes we were talking
Yes,
about.
ma'am.
And when you got up in the morning, your brother was picking you up there by prearrangement at 8 o'clock in the morning, because nobody gets up and randomly comes at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Of course.
So you had clearly spoken before that you were going to leave the truck at her house.
Yep.
Not at some other people's house.
No.
Not at anybody's house, but you had told me previously, Whitney, if my memory, let's go back. The first discussion of leaving the truck at her house. By the way, while Whitney is looking that up, Sarah, would you look up 1999 Chevy Tahoe? Just give me a clue.
Your Honor, based on 100,000 miles for a 1999 Chevy Tahoe, it's $3,000 to $5,000 is the range.
Okay, thank you.
He said, well, again, when I came to Minnesota, I was coming to get my daughter. My daughter is friends with her daughter. I said, well, let them play, because I wanted them to see each other before they go. And then he said he didn't need to leave his truck because he has family there.
Got it. Okay, so your family, by prearrangement, picked you up at her house.
Yes.
And you left your truck there.
Yes.
And where exactly did you leave your truck?
It was actually inside of a parking lot off the street.
She lives in an apartment complex?
In a townhouse.
And you left the car in a spot in the townhouse?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it a guest spot in the townhouse?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were going to be gone for a couple of months?
Yes, ma'am.
When you left the truck there, I would assume that you also left the keys there.
All right, welcome back. It is 1:44. We're still getting updates as we speak into the newsroom about this catastrophic event that's happening over.
Just a couple of things that you might not think about. One, I heard not too long ago from the South Texas Blood and Tissue Center.
Yeah.
You know, they were here the other day. And they reminded us that it's events like this where people are like, how can I help? I want to help. How can I help? And they're saying, if you can schedule a blood donation or donate blood, needless to say, we don't know the full extent of the devastation or the death toll right now in Cook County, but I want to put that out there. Also, the County Office of Emergency Management just a short time ago said they are being inundated with donations. People want to donate, generous people. Believe it or not, they're saying at this time, they're asking the public to hold off on donations until the water recedes and they get a better sense of what exactly they need. So we know that there are plenty of giving people and generous people, but they're saying in terms of donations, if you could, they got enough to worry about right now. So just hold off on that, and then at the appropriate time, they will solicit those.
And in that same breath, as you mentioned, there are a lot of giving people out there. There are a lot of people out there who are trying to sightsee in a way. They're trying to look at the flooding and stuff.
Right.
We had another update coming in from one of the police department's page, basically saying that if you guys could stay out of the way, because they're having a lot of traffic issues running into people trying to get to rescue scenes, but they can't get there because it's so congested. So if you guys could stay away from any area that you know a lot of rescues are taking place.
Okay, so again, we're standing by, and in a little more than an hour, we are expected to have our next press conference from officials in Kerr County. So that's scheduled to start at 3 o'clock. But in the meantime, as we've mentioned, for a number of hours now, we have had a handful of crews out scattered all over the hill country.
Earlier today, Courtney Freeman got the chance to speak with a man who witnessed the flooding as it was happening.
So, Bill, tell me what you saw this morning and overnight. Did you start hearing it overnight?
Oh, overnight it was rattling the entire house, the windows. The thunder was just like sledgehammers hitting the roof. It was unreal. It was rocking us out of bed, and the rain was just relentless. And I, personally thought, oh, it's probably, flood, the river's going to come up a little bit. I had no idea what I was going to see.
Yeah.
So that's pretty scary. And when it was light enough to see, and the rain let up enough for us to get out, we, walked down the driveway a little bit, and I could see right over the roof of my cousin's house, which is at the base of the hill. And all I saw was water, moving at just unbelievable speed. floating trees, kayaks, all kinds of stuff going down the river.
Oh my gosh.
It's just a horrifying scene.
Yeah, and so do you know anyone who's in trouble right now or was evacuated?
I don't know of anybody personally. I know one of my other cousins lives out near Camp Stewart, right on the river, and it washed away his RV bus. His neighbor came over and knocked on the door and got him out, and a little while after he got out, it washed it away, and it's wrapped around a tree. So thank God he got out of there. And some other people 4 miles from us, I heard, had a bunch of mobile homes over there, and they apparently washed away. But there was rescues involved, and from what I understand, nobody perished. They got the people.
When it even floods just a little, do you know what the camps do about that?
Mm-hmm. And then, the way that water comes up so fast, it's like a tidal wave comes flying down the river, and you don't have time to get out of the way. It overwhelms you so fast that you can't escape it, and that's the scary part.
Yeah, and so what's your reaction when you hear that these little summer camps have been affected by this?
Oh, my heart just drops. It's a sinking feeling of horror. You know, I live in a hurricane area, and my family members are down in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, which is right on the water. They got hit by Katrina and Camille.
Yeah.
And these things are very similar.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of it, it looks like a bomb went off. You know, everything's just destroyed. Mm-hmm. And it just horrifies you to think about how these people experience their last moments.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Is there anything else that you want to add that you've seen that I haven't asked yet?
The thing that scares me the most about what happened here is the timing. The fact that it was the 4th of July when the most people are camping and putting things down by the water and closest to the water, and the most dangerous possible scenario. This happens, you know, the night before the 4th, when the most people are here, and probably in the most people in dangerous areas. So it's just hair-raising that something like this would happen.
So that's Courtney Friedman there speaking with that gentleman there who we've heard a couple of times in recent hours, just recounting, again, just a nightmarish 4th of July for people. You know, lives have been changed forever in Kerr County, to say the least. Want to bring Courtney back in live with us now. She is in Kerrville. You were elevated earlier. Looks like you're now on the ground there, Courtney. So give us a sense of what you're seeing now.
Yeah, so we were driving along speaking to some people, and we saw this section of the river. I do want to mention it does look close, but we are safe on higher ground. Look at what we found. See all of these trees? I'm talking massive trees, bark stripped, some of them bent over. Now, a lot of times we see things broken in half with straight line winds, things like that. But if you can see, these huge trees are just bent, meaning they were so wet and the current was so strong, it just bent them over. And all of these trees have been through a lot of flooding, but you can see that it's one after the other, completely bent over. And a lot of these here closer to the shoreline have been snapped in half, but this is rapid still. We're talking white water, and this has gone down significantly from what it was. So you can only imagine in the height of this flood how dangerous this was. Look what I just found about 2 seconds ago while Adam was focused on there. This right here is an inner tube. I don't know what kind of tube it is, but look, you can see the handle right here. This is an inner tube for floating the river, and we can barely get it up because these branches are just completely wrapped around this tree. This just shows the velocity of where the river was, how fast it was moving, and that's why these rescue operations are so crucial, because this is pretty much the up close and personal view. We've got some of these, I'm just looking at this for the first time right now. A lot of just so much debris, all kinds of different things too. This is not just all one area. all of these trees have debris in them like this. So this is just an astounding view of how fast this river was moving, how high up it is. We still have a real good vantage point. We're up high on this piece of ground. We're on a sloping hill. But I mean, this is, you can see how this and the length of space now from this to the river is still rushing with white rapids, and it was all the way up here not too long ago, still soaked. So we're seeing, I've got something over here too. I'm curious about what kind of debris, because it looks like there's, yeah, this is a camping chair. I've got somebody's hat under here. So we're just finding all kinds of stuff that it's clear that people were set up to camp, enjoy their 4th of July holiday, and now all of this here has come to this.
All right, thanks so much, Courtney. Obviously, our boots on the ground giving us that first point of view experience of what is happening there and what she's seeing. And right now, you guys are also sending in a lot of pictures, a lot of videos right here. This is coming from CJB. Says that this is G Street Bridge flooding in Kerrville. This is a video. You just see how hard and fast the water is rushing through in this particular video right here. I want to get to some of the images. Again, we're now seeing the aftermath of what happened. So I'm just going to go straight through some of these. One of them that is just very alarming is this one right here. Again, this is also coming from CJB. Again, G Street Bridge in Kerrville. You see there's a car that has actually washed itself over one of the guardrails here. And people, again, are obviously just searching and looking around out there. That's probably not the best place to be. So if you guys do see water rushing like that, please get away from those kind of scenes. Again, we got another shot. Car leaning over, got lawn chairs coming on the roadways. A lot of people sending pictures of what their backyards are looking like. I know we got one person sent in Medina River rising, heavy rain between Bandera and Medina. They got another video coming in our way when we see in the river. It's flooding as well. So again, if you got any pictures, any videos, anything that you can possibly share with us in a safe way, please do so, because obviously this is something that we're going to be following all day long. And you already know we are still covering rescues that are taking place. And some of you are catching it right there firsthand. This is coming from Winds 314, rescue on the Guadalupe. And you can look right there. There is a helicopter in the air. So you're going to see this often. And as you do see this, I need everybody to pay attention and listen up carefully. When you guys are out and about, I know they are getting those donations in the way they need. I know they're getting a lot of reports in as far as who needs help. But again, it was of 119, City of Kerrville Police Department reminding people, and other first responders are telling them they're having to deal with some heavy traffic of people who are just basically congregating to look at the floodwaters as they try to continue to rescue and recover operations. This incident, again, not over as of right now. Please do not go out and start looking at the river. And if you see a lot of first responders that are out, do not think that it's safe enough for you to just go and interfere in that investigation or in that scene. You need to get out of the way. And if anything, seek safety and shelter as much as possible. On our website, we do have a list of some of those shelters, a list of some of those reunification zones and stuff in areas that we've been telling you guys about all morning long, so that you can, if you're missing a family member, where to go, where to look, who to contact, the donation areas that are taking place, the different setups that are happening for the first responders or people who just need a simple meal. All that's going to be found on our website. And again, with all that being said, if you have any pictures or images that can show us the damage that you're seeing in your area, to give your neighbors a perspective of what they're going to see should they return, or have an idea of what's going on safely, send them to us. We got that KSAT Connect feature on the Weather Authority app. Download the KSAT Weather Authority app. It is free of charge, but again, that feature on there where KSAT Connect, you can send your videos and your pictures in, and it can make it on air and possibly help save a life as first responders are out and about working to get the situation solved. Again, we're hanging around with you guys all afternoon long. A press conference is going to start at 3 p.m. We're going to toss it to break right now, but when we come back, we might have a switch out going on. We got new anchors coming in the building. Again, wall-to-wall coverage right here on KSAT. Do not go anywhere.
Knew there was going to be a problem. Why weren't these camps evacuated?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Well, you're the judge. I mean, you're the top official here in this county. Why can't you answer that? There are kids missing. These camps were in harm's way. We knew this flood was coming.
We didn't know this flood was coming. Rest assured, no one knew this kind of flood was coming. We have floods all the time. This is the most dangerous river valley in the United States.
I agree.
And we deal with floods on a regular basis. When it rains, we get water. We had no reason to believe that this was going to be anything like what's happened here. None whatsoever. Suffice it to say, this has been a very devastating and deadly flood. I happen to live on Highway 39, which was the Guadalupe River this morning. And from the benchmarks, from the people that my wife bought the property from years ago, this far surpasses the 87 flood.
Obviously, a lot of questions that people have right now. Myra Arthur and Stefania Jimenez here joining you right now as we continue our wall-to-wall coverage on this absolutely devastating flooding that's taken place on this 4th of July holiday over mainly in Kirk County is where we're seeing a lot of the damage. And we still don't know how many people have passed away. We're hoping to get an update on that in about an hour when officials from Kirk County have a press conference. But we do know that before that, the governor and the lieutenant governor are going to speak in Austin.
Yeah, you heard there from the Kirk County judge. That update was about 11:30 this morning, and you could tell from that soundbite that we played, there were some tense moments in that press conference because officials there said that they had information about the numbers of people either missing, recovered. We know there were confirmed fatalities, but they didn't share any of that information in that press conference. So a lot of questions about, okay, you know, this is an area prone to flooding. Why weren't there warnings? But you heard the county judge's response there saying they didn't know this was coming, but they do have information that they have not yet shared.
Right. And the other thing, the other topic of conversation here is the fact that, again, this isn't without precedent, right? This is an area that even a few months ago, right, there's been flooding there. And there's also, because of the terrain in that area, it is very hilly. And the problem is that because it's the 4th of July holiday, so I was looking up and something like 25,000 people live in Kerrville proper. But the issue is that when you have holiday weekends, because that area is so beautiful, you have a lot of visitors in that area. And so they didn't confirm exactly how many fatalities there have been so far within Kirk County. But when they asked if they knew at least who the people were, even if they weren't going to identify them, what the county judge said at 11:30 is that we don't know who those people are, that right now they're in the medical examiner's office being fingerprinted because those people have not yet been identified. And once they are, obviously they have to speak to their or notify their next of kin. So it might be a while before we know exactly who passed away.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, this is something, you know, we're just taking over for our colleagues Japhanie Gray and Ernie Zuniga. They have been on the air since 5 o'clock, since well before daybreak today, talking about all of this incredible flooding that the Hill Country is dealing with. It's the Guadalupe River that is well beyond its banks. We have some incredible video that we hope to bring to you. And, you know, and the thing about this system right now is it's still coming down in some places. It's been slow moving. I know that Adam Caskey's over here in our weather center gearing up to give us the latest update on that. But just to kind of reset again, as far as, you know, like you mentioned, Stefania, we don't know the number of people still missing. We don't know how many people have died in this flooding event. And there are a lot of questions about the number of children's camps that are in this area. In Kerrville, in Hunt, places that are right along the river. I mean, they are scenic. They're perfect for, you know, a summer getaway. Of course, they're very popular. And so many people have questions now about their children. We heard earlier from Camp Mystic a statement that camp sent out saying that parents of missing children had been notified. If parents had not heard directly from the camp, then their children were accounted for. And I know that on social media right now, I know from personal experience, getting a lot of these messages, there is so much misinformation, conflicting reports going back and forth. I can't imagine what these parents are going through.
Probably desperate for information.
Absolutely. And we're trying to get things confirmed from an official source who can say this is what we know right now and this is what we are doing to resolve the current situation.
So while that's happening, obviously there's also a recovery process that's underway, and we don't even know what the resources out there are like right now, because at the 11:30 press conference when the county judge and also the mayor spoke, I mean, he was in tears. He could barely get anything out because he was so emotional about what had happened. All that we heard was that the Texas Department of Emergency Management is helping throughout this recovery process, and the issue was that because the rain was still coming down, a lot of the rescue crews out there, it just wasn't safe for them to go into some areas. And so what we do know is that there are a number of helicopters, probably aerial rescues going on right now. Courtney Friedman, when she joined us about 30 minutes ago, she said that she saw a number of helicopters in the area, probably to get a better view as to what the damage is like. But even while we speak right now, we don't know about a lot of the damage that's taken place, because obviously a lot of that information would come from officials who would have to get to that area and get that information, and they haven't been able to do that. So hopefully we'll get that information within the next hour. But we do know that there are a number of RV parks also in the Kerrville area, and the ones that were near the areas that flooded. I mean, there was one picture that I saw with an RV just up against a home.
Yeah, and I know it's frustrating for us to stand here and say, here's all the information we don't know. We're frustrated as well. We're trying to get that to people. That's the point of us doing what we call wall-to-wall coverage well outside the hours of our show, to keep you updated. And we're trying to get that information solidified as we speak. That's why we're working on all these things here. We've also switched out our production crews in our control booth. So producers, let us know when we're getting new elements so that we can bring that to people who are watching. And you see that location there set up. I believe this is for the governor, lieutenant governor, to talk about the very latest.
Okay, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is the one who's supposed to be giving updates at any moment. Now, that presser was supposed to start at 2 o'clock, 6 minutes late. Obviously, with stuff like this, you have to be patient for updates, because you can only imagine that they're getting information minute to minute. So as soon as we get the notice that Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is there in Austin with that picture that we just showed you, we're going to bring that to you live.
Let me ask our folks over in the Weather Center, Sarah, Adam, are you guys at a point to give us some kind of update on what's falling? You know, is there still rain out there? Is this system, it's been so slow moving, is it picking up the pace to try to get out of the way so first responders can more easily do their jobs?
It is. It's slowly improving from the meteorological standpoint. However, I want to point out that the river, the Guadalupe River, is still, the big swell is still moving downstream, and that's the key. And I want to especially show you the hydrograph in the forecast for the Guadalupe River, particularly at Spring Branch. I'm going to get rid of some of this information. Now take a look at this, and I want to put this into perspective. You kind of have to look closely at your screen to see this number. But Sarah's showing here, starting at 9 o'clock, that's when we should see a rapid rise at Spring Branch along the Guadalupe River, even a little before 9 p.m. It's going to be quick. And look at the crest here. Forecasted crest, it's hard to read. 37 feet. Okay, think back to the flood of 98. Spring Branch and Guadalupe River. What are my notes over there, Sarah? What was the crest?
27 feet.
27 feet. So this would be higher crest than what we had in the flood of 98 at Spring Branch on the Guadalupe River. We know Highway 281 was covered in 98. It's likely to be covered later on tonight. Sure, and if you can go full screen again here with this, Sarah, if you don't mind. It's right here, those little layers that you see. Yep. No, down, I guess you can't see my hand. Right over there. Okay, anyway, the little hamburger bun thing. Anyway, this would be higher than what we had in the flood of 1998. So I would anticipate the bridge of Highway 281 over the Guadalupe to be underwater later on tonight, anywhere from about 9 p.m. through 4 a.m. So please keep that in mind. And if you have any recreation planned or even renting a home along the Guadalupe River, get as far away from that river as you can. I know there's that one RV park right along the river at 281 at Spring Branch. You know, if you're going north, you pass the gas stations on your left. You go through the beautiful bridge, and then you have the RV park on the left. I'd get all those RVs up to higher land. I'll tell you that right now with what the forecast is. And this forecast has actually increased incrementally and even sped up through the morning as we get more information, and the rain has kept falling. So previously, the crest was supposed to be around 4 a.m. Now it's closer to 2 a.m. So it's coming in sooner. The water all fell over Kerr County, other areas as well, but that's where the river starts, and now it's swelling downstream and has, I believe, already crested at Comfort. Yeah, I believe it has crested at Comfort. But anyway, here's the watershed, the Guadalupe River, just so you know what we're talking about. And you see this green outlined area. I'm going to draw a rough sketch of where we're looking right here. And this is where we're looking, 281 and the Guadalupe River, right here. This is what I'm talking about. That's where 281 is likely to be underwater for a period of time, probably a few hours later on tonight, anytime from about 9 p.m. to 4 a.m., because here's the river coming in, Comfort, down near Sisterdale, and then over to Spring Branch, and then it dumps into Canyon Lake, where Canyon Lake is really low, so it can handle this big influx of water. There won't be any issues at Canyon Lake or water going over the dam like we've seen in history. We're not going to have those issues from Canyon Lake eastward. But this is where I was talking about, right here at Spring Branch. And I can even turn off the radar data.
I think it's so important.
And
if we can turn on my mic here.
Yeah,
Thank
there
you.
we go.
I think it's so important.
Right here.
Until after sunset, the river will not look like it's rising.
No, it's a trickle right now. Yeah.
There is going to be a wall of water filling Guadalupe River at Spring Branch.
It's going to happen in minutes.
And so you need to tell everybody, if you're watching us, you need to tell, if you have friends and family, anybody that lives along the Guadalupe River in Spring Branch, you need to text your friends, let your friends know, call them, that they need to seek higher ground for the night.
Immediately, and get those RVs out of there, out of that RV park. And anyone camping along the Guadalupe River before Canyon Lake, basically, west of Canyon Lake. So anybody in Comal County that's along the Guadalupe River before Canyon Lake, you definitely need to be as far away from that river as you can be. It is a trickle right now, and it's going to look like a trickle all the way through sunset. Then by 9 o'clock, boom, it's really going to rise quickly. Myra.
Yeah, if we can pod my mic up here. I wonder if first responders in that area are going to go out to people who are along the river now and say, hey, this is coming. Because, you know, it's a holiday weekend. Like we were saying earlier, there's so many people who have gone to the banks of the river who are not familiar with the area, probably not on their phones, probably not glued to a TV screen. So like Sarah and Adam were saying, I think we just have to reiterate, if you know anybody who is along the Guadalupe in any of these other areas, not just the hill country, they need to be aware that the water will be rising.
And I think it's so important.
Yeah, just keep our mics high.
Yeah, just keep our mics high. I'll turn it off if I need to stop talking. But I think it's so important to let people know first responders should also shut down 281 in that area.
Well, it will have to be.
It will have to.
It will have to be, because if in 98, with the crest of 24 feet, 24, right? 24.7 feet.
27.4.
27.4
so 10 feet higher.
10 feet higher than that. So we're talking up the bridge structure. You know, the big, it's a beautiful metal bridge. What do you call those types of metal bridges? The arching up and over with the steel. Yeah. It's going to be about 10 feet up into that bridge.
Above that.
Yes, because it's going to be higher than 98. That's what we're expecting here. That's what the forecast hydrograph had. And here you go. We'll show you one more time. And this has increased a little bit over the past few hours. We've been watching the forecast here carefully. And even Myra, we were talking earlier today. It was supposed to be, you know, the original forecast was just under moderate level for the crest. Now the forecast is into that moderate flood range, and it all depends on the location. But at 281 at Spring Branch, if at 27 feet, it can cross over Highway 281, then at 37 feet, right here, we're comparing a difference between about right here and here. And also, there's a lot of debris that gets washed down the rivers. And especially with all the damage and what's been happening upstream, anticipate a blockage near that bridge, because once all the debris gets to that bridge, if it's not flowing through it, it's going to get stuck at it, and that can cause a clog and also dam up the river a little bit right there at that point. So even though the crest is supposed to be at about 37 feet, if there's a bit of a dam or blockage because of debris hitting the 281 bridge, then it could get even higher than that. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And then downstream from Spring Branch, we're talking east of Spring Branch, and this is just one of those situations where we have to be prepared for this. Say the water gets up to the bridge and it kind of clogs up a little bit because the bridge gets in the way. It blocks a bunch of the debris, the trees, trash, whatever is flowing down the river right now. You know, we were showing you pictures earlier of rafts and other things that were just in trees. If that dams up there at 281, then we could then see that break, and it could be an even quicker rush of water east of Spring Branch as it heads toward Canyon Lake. So everybody between Spring Branch and Canyon Lake needs to be very aware of this. So let's go into the communities here. And I know we've been focusing on Spring Branch because it did crest already in Comfort. The river crested at Comfort. So here's the Guadalupe River right along 281. This is the RV park I was talking about. Right here, there's this RV park, and often you'll see people, you know, just recreating down here, playing around, doing their thing. It's going to look like a trickle for several more hours, but come 9 o'clock, it's going to rise quickly. And what I worry about is where people have their RVs and campers parked. This satellite imagery, I think, is a little dated, so I don't think it shows the RV park as accurately as it is today and as developed as it is today. But this area here, and anybody camping or traveling along the Guadalupe River will have that very quick, rapid rise here. And I would say even in the neighborhood right here, I know you're high up on the banks. This is sloped significantly right here, but Whitestone Drive, Redland Drive, this is near River Crossing Boulevard. So here you have your QT gas station. I think you have like a McDonald's and a Valero or something right here. Anyway, these are those gas stations. And in that intersection with 281, on the east side of it, River Crossing Boulevard, folks in the neighborhood who are on this road right here, which isn't actually named in our system. So I'm gonna have to go to different mapping technology to get into it. But you know who you are if you're on the banks of the river. And I know you're very high up, but you need to pay very close attention. Starting at 8 p.m., you need to be watching that river and be ready to hightail it out of there just in case, because it's going to be such a rapid rise to the river. And the satellite imagery shows how narrow it is on a kind of a typical day. And even during our drought, it often dries up a bit right here where you have rocks and people are outside playing. Well, this is all going to be covered. That's all going to be covered in water. Okay, so that's the situation. That's what I'm really most concerned about just over the next several hours is folks downstream on the Guadalupe that you've been warned, especially around Spring Branch, between Comfort to Spring Branch, and then eastward all the way to Canyon Lake. See how the Guadalupe River, this little snaking river, here it comes in and feeds into Canyon Lake Reservoir right there. And then Canyon Lake has the dam on the east side of it. This is the dam right here, that flat part, that's the dam for Canyon Lake. Now Canyon Lake is not even 50% full right now. So this Canyon Lake will be able to handle the muddy rush and surge of water that's coming its way. Not worried about Canyon Lake at all. And then, of course, after Canyon Lake, you've got the Guadalupe toward New Braunfels. Should not be any problems along there because Canyon Lake is basically controlling the river flow for you. So anybody between Canyon Lake, Sattler, and then all the way down into New Braunfels where the river snakes through this area, we have light rain right now, but that's not the type to cause any problems. Here's a rough sketch of the Guadalupe River as it comes in to New Braunfels. And anybody between Canyon Lake and New Braunfels, you'll be okay. Sattler area, you should be okay because Canyon Lake is going to control that surge of water that's headed your way, which started out in Hunt in Kerr County and is now just past Comfort. So now that basically the surge of water, probably roughly somewhere around the crest of it, I should say, the peak of it, somewhere around the Sisterdale area, and then it flows downstream. And by 9 p.m. and especially thereafter, it's going to be a quick, rapid rise at Spring Branch. So that's basically the next stop, if you will, of the quick, rapidly rising, basically ball of water that's coming your way, because it all flows off, it swells, and then rushes. And that's why it rises so significantly and so quickly in such a short period of time. And there's also more ongoing rain in that area, so keep that in mind too. We still have showers and some moderate to heavy rain right along 281 north of Spring Branch. You know, you can exit here, go to Fisher, go east toward Canyon Lake. You have some burger joints and barbecue joints along here, right? And some gas stations. Then you could go east to Canyon Lake. Anyway, that area seen some moderate to heavy rain at the moment. So that, of course, is running down into the river as well. And some of the drainage in that area, I witnessed it firsthand, is already starting to swell up a bit as it flows down into the waterway to be then rushed downstream into Canyon Lake. So a look at really quickly at our rainfall accumulation. This is something we were watching, and of course, Sarah, Justin, Shelby have been updating you. It all started here, the two forks of the Guadalupe River, where very heavy rainfall overnight led to the quick, rapid rise in the river, particularly at Hunt, then Ingram, and then downstream into Kerrville. About a foot of rain happened within a few hours. 12 inches of rain. And I know these are Doppler radar estimates, but these are actually pretty reliable estimates from the algorithms within the computer system. And you see how the river is highlighted here in green? That's because of the flash flood warning. And it was even a flash flood emergency earlier this morning, which is like the next level up that really alerts everybody's phones and everything. That was earlier today up through the Kerrville area. All right, we have some drone video from Kerrville as well. Let's get to this should be some fresh drone video.
Yeah, I think this is the first time.
Is it live or no?
No, this was recorded earlier. But yeah, first time we are seeing just the impact from the air of all that water in Kerrville.
And that bridge was underwater previously, correct? It was close. It was lapping up onto it.
Yeah, the water. Okay. What we did see, I know what you're talking about, Adam. Mm-hmm. Earlier, we saw a family walk across that bridge, and the water was very close to, the underside of the road there.
So look at how, the trees have been flattened. We've seen that before in these catastrophic floods. Some of the trees are completely uprooted as well. Especially when the soil is saturated like this, it's a lot easier to uproot a tree. Just like if you're picking weeds in the garden, if it's dry ground, it's hard to pull those weeds. But if it's moist soil, it's really easy to pull those weeds. Same story here. So I'm setting us up for Spring Branch. Those trees all get pushed downstream. They get hung up in spots, the river turns, they can get hung up at that turn, and it can cause little swells along the way, and then those swells can break free and cause another new rush of water within that initial ball of water that's headed eastward.
Adam, I do have a question.
Yep.
If you could turn my mic up for a moment so that you can hear my question to Adam. So whenever we have record drought like what we've had recently, I'm wondering if when you have this much rain in an area so quickly, if because the ground has been dry for so long, if it's just much harder for it to absorb some of that water. Is that what happened here?
Not really, because we're on top of limestone. We sit on top of rock. I mean, drive up into the hill country and you'll see lots that are exposed rock, right? And that's what we're on top of. So the water hits and it quickly rushes off. And that's one reason why we're in Flash Flood Alley. It's because of the hills, the terrain, and we're not on top of a sponge. We're on top of a brick. So the waterways have to make up for the lack of sponge, if you will.
Got it.
The waterways have to make up for it. And that's what they're doing right now. They're doing what nature does. It's just unfortunate because it can lead to deaths and catastrophic damage in this situation.
Adam, I like the way you said the thing.
Just keep Sarah's mic up if you don't mind.
I like the way that you said the thing about the sponge. I think that's important. But here's the thing. You deal with a foot of rain in any place across the world, in a couple of hours, you're going to see some massive flooding there as well.
It's just worse for us because of the rock we're on. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, 12 inches of rain. I mean, we've seen it with tropical systems. You know, it'll cause flooding and whatnot. But it's just, this is why we're in Flash Flood Alley, because of our terrain, our topography, and our geology. You know, what's underneath us, and it's a lot of rock. Well, the good news is, for first responders, is the rain is basically exiting Kerrville.
Right when we forecast it to, right around 240, 250.
Yeah,
that's when the rain was forecast to end. You can actually track the end of that line there. It's very slow moving system. That's part of the reason why we had all the flooding, but it's moving at about 20 miles an hour.
And it is weakening a bit, which is good too. It's still raining, but it is weakening. So now, instead of thinking about, okay, you know, the rain's kind of letting up, we'll be all right. We've been talking about this, Spring Branch in particular, from Sisterdale to Spring Branch along the Guadalupe River. That's where the problems are going to be later on tonight. And in case that's where we should be sending crews as well later on tonight, is to have some people monitoring the situation just off 281 in Spring Branch, right over the Guadalupe River. This is all starting to wind down, but still just light rain. No issues in San Antonio and Bexar County. Absolutely no issues. You're going to be fine from this, and actually it should be done by fireworks time. We have the back edge of it right there, and we've already timed out the back edge of that and when it's going to make it to downtown San Antonio by 5 p.m. So most, if not all, of this rain should really be winding down by 5 p.m. Then we have a few more hours before fireworks time. Myra, did you have a question?
Can you guys bring up my mic there? Yeah, I was just going to mention some of the reunification places that are open and available right now to let you guys kind of regroup in the weather center. We still know, like we said earlier, that we've got people missing. We've got reports of fatalities. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to gather all that information about those reunification sites, list them off to you. But before we go, I want you to hear this number. If you are looking for help, if you are looking for someone in this emergency, the Red Cross is assisting with reunification, and here is a number for you to call. Are you ready? Here's the number. It's 1-800-733-2767. Again, call the Red Cross if you have information or questions about finding a loved one. 1-800-733-2767. We'll be right back.
High intensity game for sure, with the sense of rivalry for sure. That's a team that wants to climb the table just like we do. So now I expect a big intense game, a lot of duels for sure, and it's gonna come down to moments in each box, I think.
Yeah, it's a good momentum, you know, to have 2 shutouts in a row, back-to-back wins. Hopefully that's the idea, to continue with that rhythm, you know, and at least, if not a win, at least not to lose. And you know, as I say, it's difficult to play at El Paso, but we are confident that we can get points away from there. We played in tough venues before, you know, Lexington, Oakland, Sacramento, and I think we are used to those games. So hopefully this is not the exception, that we can go there and play face-to-face to El Paso.
What was interesting about Saturday night's match with Union Omaha was that almost every 5 minutes there was a yellow card. So do these guys enjoy that aggressive nature to a match?
You know, sounds pretty accurate, but it's usually like this when a league from below plays a league from above. They try to bring the aggressiveness and bring the intensity, and we love it. We love it. We want to match it and we want to excel in it. So we love that kind of intensity, and it gets us going for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys seen training, but it's the same here. It's a war every day, and I feel that's so good for us, because if there's intensity defending, it means that you're gonna get better on the ball, especially with the timing, with how to be careful not to get close to the guys on the other team. And I think the intensity that this team has is pretty good. Of course, we don't want that many yellows on games, but if that's what it takes, we don't mind.
Another fun part about Friday night's game is that it is a rivalry game against El Paso. These two teams don't like each other, so it's going to be fun come Friday night. From the practice facility, Nick Mantis,
Welcome back here to KSAT 12's wall-to-wall coverage of devastating flooding in the Hill Country, in the Kerrville area, in Ingram, in Hunt. You are looking at a compilation of all the various images that we have captured this morning with crews there on the ground. Still so many questions about people missing, about the number of fatalities, about what happens from here. We do know that rescues have been underway. We know that reunification hopefully is happening very soon. So many families standing by, waiting for word on their loved ones. I did mention before we went to break a number to call if you have questions about a missing loved one. I'm going to say it again. It is the Red Cross. They are helping assist in those reunifications. 1-800-733-2767. There are also several places where people can go, where we know people are right now waiting to be reunified with their loved ones. I'm going to list that off. That is Ingram Elementary, the First United Methodist Church in Kerrville, Calvary Temple Church, Notre Dame Catholic Church, Shriner University Event Center, and a venue called the Arcadia Live. We have all of that information on our website right now. Again, people just waiting for word, waiting to know if their loved ones are safe and sound. As you can imagine, it's, internet's not working, phone's not working, phone batteries are dead. So a lot of just uncertainty and so many people on edge after what's happened in Kerrville.
And the other thing that you're mentioning this too, that a lot of people might have gone to an area like Kerrville specifically because it is a little bit more remote, right? It's a little bit more out of the way during this July 4th holiday.
Weekend,
You want to be away with your family. They probably turned off, their signals or something, but that's why it's important to go old school and try to call people that are within that area. You mentioned Kerrville, Hunt, Comfort, all of those areas. Now, you mentioned a moment ago, Myra, the Red Cross, and I wanted to bring that up again because when leaders from Kerr County spoke at 11:30, they said a lot of people are watching this who maybe don't have a direct connection to anybody who is missing or in the area, but maybe they want to help. And if you want to donate, the Red Cross is really the best way to go about that. The other thing that we're seeing is that Kerrville is part of our area, of our viewing area, and we've been there many times. People there are very close-knit. I mean, this is 25,000 people who live within Kerrville City proper, and we know that these are people who pitch in whenever there is any kind of emergency. They did that during the pandemic. I mean, they helped out other businesses stay alive and really stay afloat, and so we are seeing so many food trucks, small businesses putting out messages on Facebook, letting each other know, hey, we're setting up shop in this place, we're feeding first responders. We saw that earlier today. I'm just going to let people know about some of those areas. So Tail Chasers, Napa, like the car part chain in Kerrville, they're sending out messages on Facebook, letting people know that they're helping out. Grape Juice. Also, there is Shim's Be Blessed food truck, which has set up a food truck at the Home Depot right now because they're feeding first responders. And you know that there are also shelters that have been set up for people as well.
Yeah. And we want to mention, too, we're juggling all the different elements that are coming in very quickly and making sure that we bring those to you as fast as we can. We mentioned earlier and showed you a live shot of a table setup. Looked like a press conference was about to happen with Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. We were told that was going to start about 2 o'clock. All of a sudden, that shot has gone down. We're trying to figure out exactly what is going on with that to make sure that we can bring you the very latest information because we know the state is involved in this. We've known that since about 11:30 this morning. The first time when we heard from Kerr County and Kerrville city officials that they are working with the state to bring in as many resources to save as many lives and property as possible.
Okay, so you mentioned that at 3 o'clock right now. So in about 27 minutes, we are expected to hear from Kerr County, from officials there, the county judge who spoke at 11:30. So that's going to happen at 3 o'clock. While we're waiting for that, we want to go out live. We have a live interview set up right now with a journalist who has been on the scene. This is Louis Amistoy. He owns the Kerr County Lead, a podcast, really a newsletter. It keeps the people of Kerr County. He keeps the people of Kerr County informed. And I know that you have been out there, Louis, all day today. Can you just tell us, because you have a different vantage point, you know these people, you know that area. What has this been like for you? Hold on, we can't hear you.
Do we have Lewis's mic up? Lewis, your audio working?
Fine.
There we go.
Okay,
now we can hear you.
All right. Let me just say this, that I live south of the Guadalupe River, and I live up elevated up a bit. And so I was coming down a hill to look at Louise Hayes Park this morning, and I didn't know what I was looking at first. And the whole river was basically it was the whole horizon was the river. And if you've been up to Kerrville and you've seen the river, it runs about 20 feet across in some places right now because of the drought. This was 80, 90 feet, actually maybe 75 to 100 yards wide in places, if not wider. And then it's been absolute chaos here, quite frankly. You've heard nonstop sirens going down Sidney Baker all day today. You saw trucks moving up and down the highways here with boats from the Texas game wardens. And we have a situation at Camp Mystic, which is in West Kerr County on Highway 39, where we do not know. We have just conflicting reports about what's happened out there. Missing kids, missing staff. Some kids are accounted for. Some kids are not accounted for. I've only been able to confirm at least one kid that was missing. So we still have some chaotic situations. Now, in all the camps, and as you guys know, Kerr County is a big place for summer camps. Most of the camps have checked in and said, everything's fine, we're good, we got out. But in some of those areas where this water came down between 2:30 and 6 o'clock in the morning, you didn't know, you didn't hear what was happening. It was absolutely incredible to see how much water moved through West Kerr in about a 2.5 hour period.
Okay, so let me ask you that, because there have been a lot of questions about the warning systems or lack thereof in place. How did you find out that it was bad? What was your first alert that the flooding was happening and that it was severe and dangerous? How did you find out?
I was dead asleep. I mean, where I'm at, we were getting rain, but it was nothing really major, and we had thunder and lightning all night. And then I got a couple calls at about 6:30 in the morning, said, "Oh boy, it's bad." And I'll say this, that I got a text message from the mayor saying, OMG, and so I got up early. I got up early and I said, I'm going to head on down. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, I could not believe how much destruction had already been in place. They had evacuations along Water Street, which is an east-west kind of corridor in Kerrville. The river was just below the bridge, so I was up and out about 6:45 in the morning. But like where I live, it was very mild as far as the rain goes. But man, that was not the case further upstream. And I know in Ingram, there's been significant damage to low-lying areas there. The one area that concerns me the most is it's the RV parks that are the biggest concern at this moment right now. You have RV parks, and it's a perfect storm of I hate to use that cliche, but it is, because it's a holiday weekend. And where do people come? They come here to Kerrville to camp out on the river, to enjoy the river, during the summertime. And there are hundreds of RVs along that river. And I've reported already one family of 5 missing. We know that for a fact. We have other reports of people missing who were in their RVs and could barely get out. County Judge Rob Kelly told me this morning that when he talked to Sheriff Larry Letha, that Howdy's, which is they're next to, it's like an outdoor bar and music venue. There's an RV park next to it, that there were people on the roofs already. I have another story from a person in Hunt whose mother, 83, was at home with family and the family had to bust up through the roof to get out of the house and do it. I mean, and Hunt has significant damage throughout that area as well. And your pictures here show you, just how bad the river is, right now. So
So many people, Lewis, obviously waiting for word on their loved ones. You mentioned all the back and forth about, what's true and what's not, especially when it comes to kids at these camps. We just spoke with a mother of one little girl at Camp Mystic who confirmed that her daughter is still missing. We don't know how many kids are missing from Camp Mystic. They put out a statement earlier saying that if you have been contacted by the camp, then parents know that, those who've been contacted, their children are unaccounted for. All the other kids, if parents had not been contacted, they were safe. But right now, it is just the most excruciating waiting game for these families to wait on word on, are their kids safe? Are they stranded somewhere? Are they being reunified soon? Are they being rescued? We know we've seen helicopters going back and forth. I mean, with you being there and obviously, well in touch with Kerrville and Kerr County officials, are you getting any kind of updated info about that specific part of this search?
No, I mean, the problem here is that, you have where Mystic is at on Highway 39, it can be easily cut off by the river. And as you notice, that note they sent out to parents that indicated, hey, we don't know, we don't have Wi-Fi, we don't have power, we don't have water. We are cut off from this as well. I had a photo that was sent to me of girls trudging through at least almost knee-deep water to get out to one of the halls that's there.
Yeah.
And I just got a note from somebody too that there has possibly been a fatality at River Inn, which is just west of Camp Mystic, again further deeper into the western part of Kerr County, and it's a beautiful little part on the river. It's like a motel type complex, and there are people who are stranded there as well. So I mean, we're talking about remote areas as well. Now, I did hear from Mo Ranch, which is, on the other fork of the near the headwaters of the Guadalupe River, and they interface with the river as well. All of their people got out. They had no problems whatsoever. But a lot of their camping facilities are a little bit higher up. Mystic, not so much. Some of these places are right on the river too. And like I said, when you see how high the river was, I mean, we're talking about in Hunt, flood stages that were at 17 or 18 feet in 2 hours. When you look at the USGS, numbers, it's stunning.
All right, Lewis, I really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us here. And I hope that, I know you've been in touch with Stephania. I hope that we can check back in with you to find out as things update, as we hopefully soon hear some more information.
And the other thing is, go ahead, Lewis.
Yeah, we'll be here. I'm heading over to the 3:00 press conference. And by the way, I demanded they move it to a larger facility because of all your TV crews. So
yeah, we require a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And we're going to head over there now and find out what's going on. And we'll have more updates on our site here.
Yeah, and you've been keeping people also up to date on your Facebook page as well. But listen, I know that you've been out there since early this morning, and you are also a community member there in Kerrville. So we really appreciate from the bottom of our hearts having you come in to speak with us and inform us on what you know. And if possible, we'd like to stay in touch with you throughout the next few hours and days, just because if there's something that you hear or you find out, we would love for you to let us know so that we can inform the rest of the public. But Lewis,
you know how to get a hold of me.
Yes, Lewis, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon,
guys take care. Thanks a lot.
All right, I believe we have, of all of our crews out and about, we're going to check in with our Courtney Friedman. Is she, there she is. Okay, so she's standing by in Kerrville. Courtney, you can see the damage behind you. Are things improving at all out there as far as water levels go?
So the rain is still coming down, Myra. It's been coming down all day, but it's not as heavy as it was when we first got here, but it has been pretty consistent. I'll let you look at what the river looks like now. Not much has changed since the last time y'all saw us. This is still raging water. I mean, when you see that water hitting that bent tree, Adam, is that what you can see right there? Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what we're seeing in multiple areas of this river. Rapids, essentially, and bent over trees, not even snapped. And this is what I was saying earlier. There's a lot of snapped trees, but the speed at which a river has to be moving to just bend these trees and topple over them is pretty extensive. And so we're seeing a ton of damage here. We are just directly across the street from some houses. Some look like rental houses, like Airbnbs or, VRBO's rentals that you can use. One of them says Casa Rio, and we'll tell you about that specific house in just a bit. But just look at this. It's not just Mother Nature we're talking about. This is bent metal. This looks like a bit of a ramp, like a boat ramp, or the concrete here is still intact, but there's a lot of debris covering this, what looks like a driveway or a ramp, and these trees just completely covering them. And this isn't just, a couple trees hanging on top of it. These are like impossible to pull off. They're really, really stuck. And so what we were doing was shooting all of this. We've done a couple live shots out here, and we had a family just standing up here. So we went and talked to them. They live in that house that Adam just showed you behind us. And they said that they were evacuated early this morning. They started getting information from the city that they needed to evacuate as early as 5 o'clock. And 7:30, they said it was up to the third step of their house. And the little girl said she was at one of these camps in Hunt 2 weeks ago. So she's worried about a lot of these campers. But what she said shocked her the most is they found a canoe down here, which is 20 miles away from her camp in Hunt. That is a canoe from that camp. It had the same exact tribe on it that she is. And so that just kind of gave me the chills to hear all of that wash this far down. And so we're hearing these stories of how fast the river was moving. That is proof of that. So she said she saw her, her camp's logo on that canoe, and they just knew that this was so serious.
And Courtney, we just put out on some of our social media outlets here, stand by while I'm getting this info. We just talked to a mother of a little girl named Eloise Peck and Lila Bonner. They are still missing after the flooding along the Guadalupe River. Campers at Camp Mystic. We did talk with Eloise's mother, gave us permission to use this photo, get the word out. This is what I just can't imagine what so many parents are dealing with right now, trying to get word about whether their kids are safe. And again, we're doing everything that we can to get confirmed information because, gosh, is there so much going back and forth about people accounted for, not accounted for. As soon as we have an update, we will be sure to bring it to you live right here. All right. And Courtney, thank you so much for joining us live, and we'll check back in with you in just a moment. Now we're going to take a break, and we'll see you right back here in 2 minutes.
All right, welcome back. I guess.
Yeah, we're going to send things over to Adam and Sarah Spivey in our weather center to just give us the very latest on this system getting out of the way. Fingers crossed, Adam.
Yeah, it is, but we're still dealing with the swell of the river. So once the rain is done, there's still significant threats along the Guadalupe River, especially from Comfort to Bergheim to Spring Branch and then all the way to even to Canyon Lake. Okay, so really quick look at authority radar and show you that luckily the rain is starting to slowly wind down. There's not much steering flow above us in the atmosphere to really push this along, so it's just sitting overhead, and that's one of the problems. Now, the steering will switch as we get into tomorrow. We anticipate more showers tonight and into tomorrow morning, and some of that could be right over Kendall and Comal counties, so that's something to keep in mind. It's winding down right now, but we could actually have another round to develop later on tonight. Some of the systems like this are often nocturnal in nature, and they thrive on the nighttime opposed to the typical what we're used to, the daytime afternoon heating kind of situation. Okay, really quickly get to our futurecast. I'll show you essentially what's possible here going forward. And it does show this batch of rain really fizzling out, but then later on tonight, we could have another batch form in parts of the hill country, potentially even Kendall and Comal counties. Now this evening, most of the rain is going to be coming to an end, and by fireworks time, damp ground, but we should be able to get some fireworks going. Later on tonight, look at this, there could be some of that redevelopment. Now this model right here is just showing some light activity through 3 a.m., but this could very well turn into some heavy rainfall as well. So that's why we have a 60% chance of showers redeveloping tonight and even on into tomorrow morning. Okay, let's just look at the Guadalupe River because that's what we're focused on here. Of course, crested in Kerrville with all the flooding and catastrophic issues. Already crested in Comfort. So what we're focusing on is this area between Comfort and Spring Branch. You see how windy the river here is, that little blue line. Rivers never just flow straight. You know, they're always looping and winding around, and that's why it's going to take a little bit of time for that swell of water to really make it to Spring Branch. And as it does so later on tonight, this is where we'll have the problems between Comfort and Canyon Lake. So even in Bergheim, where there's, I think it's FM 747 or 474, where we have the river crossing there in Bergheim, that's likely to be flooded just later this evening, and there's RV parks around there, and that's our primary concern. And you know, our guest mentioned it earlier, and we were even talking about this yesterday. It's really the RV parks and the campers, especially being a holiday weekend, that are the most vulnerable in these situations. And if I had a camper, an RV, anything along the Guadalupe River here, between Comfort, Spring Branch, and Canyon Lake, I'd get it out of there. Get it out of there. Get it away from there, and then you could go back tomorrow and set back up again if you wanted to. But I definitely get it away from there. Okay, I want to show you the predicted river level of the Guadalupe. Now this would be 11 p.m. right here, 9 p.m. right here. So it's already rising, but not, it's to the naked eye, it's just flowing a little bit more. Notice how quickly this rises, 11 p.m. and then we're up to 2 a.m. 2 a.m. it's expected to crest. The latest forecast is at 37.2 feet. That would be about 10 feet higher than the flood of 98 at the Guadalupe River at Spring Branch. Canyon Lake will be just fine. Canyon Lake's just fine. It's half full right now. It can take a surge of water. So there aren't going to be the issues around Canyon Lake or the Canyon Lake Dam. So it may be a blessing in this situation that Canyon Lake is actually so low, because it's really going to absorb this blow from the Guadalupe River and all the heavy rainfall. It'll absorb it just fine. But this is what we're worried about. And in terms of the exact location, let me show you on the map. So San Antonio here, very light rain coming to an end. Guadalupe River is outlined with this green area. That's the National Weather Service warning for the Guadalupe River. And I just showed you the forecast for the Guadalupe River at Spring Branch. That's where the forecast was for, the Guadalupe at Spring Branch. And I'm going to turn off the radar so you can see the satellite imagery, because the rain that's falling right now isn't what's significant here. It's a swell of water that's coming, that's flowing eastward from Comfort to Sisterdale, Bergheim, and on into Spring Branch as well. I'm going to go to my notes because I took some notes about the neighborhoods along here, and neighborhoods and areas where people need to exercise caution in particular. Okay, I'm going to get over. Sarah, do you mind handing me my notebook over there? Thank you. Okay, so when you're upstream from Spring Branch here, okay, this is 281 in Spring Branch. okay, when you go upstream, Whispering Water, this road right here along the Guadalupe River. These homes along Whispering Water need to watch very closely or even be prepared to get out of there by 9 o'clock. Just be prepared, because along this bank, and I know you're high up already, but remember, a 37-foot crest is what's expected here. That Whispering Water is at risk. Of course, Brent Springs, that's even lower. This side is a little bit higher. The south side or west side, depending on where you are. And Whispering Water, we also have Steeplebrook Road. That's the road we were talking about earlier, right at 281 in one of the newer subdivisions. So Steeplebrook Road as well. Let me get a better look at this. Okay, sorry, I'm moving this kind of quickly, but here you go. This neighborhood, just off east of 281, and you have the nice iron bridge here that crosses 281. This is Steeplebrook Road, right along the Guadalupe River, and along Steeplebrook Road, and then even exercising caution to Redland Drive and Whitestone Drive. This is a river crossing subdivision. This is one of the newer developments, river crossing subdivision. And this river crossing subdivision needs to be prepared to act in the event that the water could even make it that high, just in case. The RV park here, like I said before, get everything out of there. Everything out of there. You have until about 9 p.m. to make sure you're up on higher ground and in a safe area. But I also want to take you farther upstream. Let's go even up around here, Guadalupe River State Park. This is that green area. I believe that's Guadalupe River State Park. Camping around there, and campsites are often along waterways, where they often are. Get to higher ground, Guadalupe River State Park. I'm sure the rangers already notified you. But then also right here, this is Spring Branch Road, okay? Spring Branch Road, this right here is the Guadalupe River RV Park and Campgrounds. You don't want to be there right now. You do not want to be there. You have a few hours to get out, but you do not want to be at the Guadalupe River RV Park and Campgrounds as the water rises rapidly later on this evening, just hours from now. So and there's even, I think, like a little winery or something here with a unique name. Rivermont POA Park, Nichols Landing hiking area, Bergheim Campground and River Outfitters as well, all the way back into Bergheim. That's a place where the water is going to be rising quickly, and then we get to the Guadalupe River State Park area. That's this nice green space. And as I said, often campgrounds are near the waterways. You want to pack up camp. You don't have much time to get to a safe area. And again, this green area, that indicates the National Weather Service flood warning for the Guadalupe River. And the river, it changes, and it's the topography along it changes as the water flows, of course. It's not the exact same in any two spots, so outcomes will differ and vary across the Guadalupe River, but you need to be prepared for that significant rise starting at 9 p.m. in Spring Branch, starting at 9 p.m. Right now, it doesn't look like much, right? It's, 6-7 feet? But it's going to rise another 30 feet higher, basically at least about another 30 feet higher than where it is right now. So think of that. Another 3 basketball hoops higher than the current water level. That's how you can kind of estimate where it's going to be. So that could get up pretty close to some of these homes, particularly the ones right along here, Steeplebrook and Whispering Water. So that's the area of concern, and everywhere, of course, up the Guadalupe, and then even east of Spring Branch. Now, we don't have any forecast points east of here, but anybody between Spring Branch and Canyon Lake on this little stretch of the Guadalupe River, of course, the river being that little snake-like design here in the ground. That's how they look from satellite imagery. It's a little snake-like. Anybody along there all the way into Canyon Lake, and where the Guadalupe spills into Canyon Lake, you don't want to be in that area either. This part is going to fill up pretty quickly, but Canyon Lake in general will be able to sustain this blow. Canyon Lake should be just fine, considering it's not even at 50% full. It'll actually give Canyon Lake quite a boost. So that's the latest with the Guadalupe River, still on track for starting at 9 p.m., a very rapid rise in the water, likely to be covering Highway 281 later on tonight. I'd stay away from it after 9 p.m. later on tonight, and we'll be watching for debris because you saw the debris, the sticks, the logs, the trees that are uprooted and knocked over. They get swept downstream. They get stuck and hung up in some of the windy turns, but that also picks up more along the way. And sometimes when they interact with bridges, it can cause a bit of a log jam, literally a log jam, and then that can cause a little more damming of the water. So when I talked about the Branch Road, okay, Branch Road and the Guadalupe River RV Park and Campgrounds, where there's that river crossing, there could be a little extra damming because of the bridge and debris hitting the bridge and then water hitting that debris and piling up a little bit more. So there's just all these different factors when it comes to water and how quickly that it can happen. And that's going to be happening later on this evening and into tonight. Comfort has already crested. The water is going down. Kerrville, the water is slowly going down. I know the damage is done, but the water is going down. It's going to be easier for crews to get out and about and to assess the situation and hopefully find more survivors. That's what we want to see. As for the radar, you can see the rain is slowly coming to an end out there, particularly in the Kerrville area. They're right on the backside. There's been a little bit more development north, and some of that's being pushed toward Kerrville, but it's very, very light rain right now. Just some more moderate showers that are in Bandera County at the moment. And these moderate showers, the Medina River, Spivey, do you mind going to links 2 and popping up the hydrograph for the Medina River at Bandera? We actually have a crew going out there just to take a look at it and assess. But we'll give you the forecast because the Medina River has a very small watershed here through Bandera County. And thank you, Sarah. And that's one reason why it's so difficult to fill up Medina Lake Reservoir, because it's a very small watershed and you need heavy rain in a very small area. There we go. Yep. Okay, so it's rising. We expect it around 5 p.m. to crest right up here. And that would be at, what's
20
that?
feet.
20 feet. Okay, about 20 feet would be the crest. So you had a little bump and then it dropped. That's normal to see. A little bump and then it to fall a little bit and then it to quickly spike. So it's basically in that spiking pattern now. It's going to be, this is what, like 5, 6 feet right here, 7 feet. This is 7 feet. All right, 6 feet, yeah, 6 feet right there. And then
by about 4, it'll be at 18 and a half. So in an hour.
In an hour. It's going to rise, what, 12 feet or so, and even more than that because it's going to be going even higher. So anyway, this is going to be rising significantly, the Medina River at Bandera. So that's another area where you want to stay away from the Medina River banks. The Medina River has been dry, but it's not going to be.
And I have to say
right now.
this, Adam. I've seen on Facebook that some people are waiting near the rivers.
Yeah.
Like having watch parties to wait for the water to rise.
Mm-hmm.
That is so dangerous.
It
because
is.
you never know how quick this water approaches. It's not going to be like a wading pool or anything like that. This is a wall of water. So if you see any of you watching us, if you see any of your friends, family, anything waiting for the water to arrive, tell them to get out of there, get to higher ground. This is a life-threatening event. I cannot stress this enough. People have already died today. And you need to help your friends and family know that they can be safe, and they can do that by heading to higher ground along the Guadalupe River and along the Medina River.
And if you are on 281 later on tonight, after 9 o'clock, don't be crossing the Guadalupe River. By 9 o'clock even. I just stay away from it. It's going to be rising very quickly. So that's just another point there.
All right. Adam. Thank you very much for that. And now we're just moments away from getting an update from leaders over in Kerr County. The last time that they spoke was at 11:30. Our Garrett Berger is at that press conference. So at any moment now, we're prepared to hear from the county judge and also the mayor of Kerrville, who was very emotional earlier today at 11:30 when he spoke. At this point, we still don't know exactly how many people have passed away as a result of these devastating floods, and we're hoping to maybe get that information right now. But there's also so much going on when it comes to active, recovery and rescue efforts. We don't know. There are air searches underway. You've got helicopters flying in the area to see if they could find anybody who's in a tree or something stuck looking for help. And so we're hoping to get that information at any moment.
Yeah, and I just got an update here on the Camp Mystic search. Campers are currently being evacuated from Camp Mystic via helicopter in small groups. They will be taken to Ingram School. We will update as soon as we have more information. Again, as we mentioned earlier, Ingram Elementary is one of the reunification sites. There are several in the Kerrville area. We know that right now there are parents, there are families, loved ones at those locations waiting for word, waiting for any kind of hopefully positive news that their loved ones are safe and sound. We did know earlier today that they were trying to launch boats into the water to rescue some of these people that we know were, we don't know if these were kids, adults, where they were from, but some people were hanging onto trees. They were up in the air waiting to be rescued, but the water was moving so quickly, it was so high, they couldn't use those boats. So they are using helicopters to carry out these rescues and hopefully reunifications. Again, Camp Mystic campers being evacuated and will be taken to Ingram School. I'm just going to go, before we take a quick break, I'm going to list those reunification sites again in addition to Ingram. First United Methodist Church, Calvary Temple Church, Notre Dame Catholic Church, Shriner University Event Center, the Arcadia Live. Also, a number to call if you've got questions about where your loved one is. The Red Cross is assisting in that effort. That number is 1-800-733-2767. Again, 800-733-2767. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Wait. No break. Do we have that presser that's going on right now?
Okay. This was, all right. So we are waiting on that presser to happen, that press conference. This was, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the control room, Camp La Junta. Okay, this taken at 4:30 this morning. We've seen some videos of, just cars, homes, property floating down the river. A counselor sent this to his mother about 4:30 this morning, and we have not heard any official word from the camp about if everyone is accounted for. I'm hearing in some various threads that I'm a part of that people are. I hope that to be true. But again, it's one of the situations that just show you how fast this flooding happened, the fact that it happened while people were sleeping in the middle of the night, early this morning, and folks had to do anything and everything they could to get out.
Yeah, I would just love to get a picture, if we could look on a website at some point, as to what that building looked like before, because that can give you an accurate representation as to how quickly that water just comes, and it just goes up so quickly that you're basically helpless if you're in that area. But obviously, wherever that picture was taken, it was taken from a higher vantage point. So we're happy to tell you that. And our producer was giving me information in our ear. If you could just tell me so that I could relay it to the audience. All right. So the camp counselor who took this picture got all of the kids who were at that camp out. But right now they are waiting to be rescued. We don't know how many children are part of his group, but the good news is that at least for now they are safe and they're just waiting to be rescued.
Yeah, and that has got to be the situation that we hope a lot of campers are in, a lot of kids and their counselors, camp staff, but also just people who are unaccounted for in general. We hope they are somewhere waiting to be rescued. Like Sarah Spivey mentioned earlier, first responders are doing everything they can and hoping that people don't put themselves in further harm's way while they're trying to carry out these rescues and get people to dry ground, back to be reunified with their loved ones. And I don't think we can say it enough. I want us to reiterate the fact that even if you are near the Guadalupe River right now and it looks normal, and the water is just flowing and it's a little bit rainy, more water is coming. It will be coming, as Adam Caskey and Sarah have been saying, around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock tonight. If you know anybody who is camping in that area, even if they are in a house that is up off the river, let them know. let them know that this is something they have got to look out for tonight, especially if they're actually camping on the river, if they're in RVs. Get to higher ground, because the worst situation is for this to happen at all, but then to happen at night when people are sleeping.
One of the things that I hope that we ask the leaders in Kerr County when that press conference gets underway is exactly how they're trying to get the word out to people, because cell signals are down. Right? A lot of people are in that area because it's a 4th of July. They probably shut their phones off. But also, even if they're trying to get in contact with people, they may not be able to with their cell phone service because that is down right now. And, you know, we're showing you pictures of the flooding throughout the day, throughout the morning. And, you know, it's one thing to see it right here from right now on television. But Myra, I know that you have covered floods and storms in the past, and what I can tell you from experience is that we're not exaggerating. When you are in person, when you're watching that happen right in front of you, trust me, it's a lot scarier. Yeah. Television has a way of sort of mitigating or filtering really
gives you
the
a
impact.
buffer.
Yes. So you're not really there. You can't feel that the force of that water and how quickly it's traveling down and just how dangerous that can be.
Yeah, do not underestimate water. Do not underestimate it. This is new drone video from Kerrville. Not sure exactly what part of the city this is in, but you could just see cars there underwater, all of the debris trapped in these trees. And trees themselves that have been uprooted and are pushing downstream. And we heard Adam mention that earlier with all of this, they call it thatch, you know, all of the limbs, brush, things that are just naturally in a river. They get picked up by the force of this water, and then that can all ball up. It can stick together. It can then start to block water that is trying to get downstream, and then eventually that has the potential to break. And then you have this wall of water pushing downstream. And as Sarah Spivey mentioned, we are already seeing videos on social media where people are standing on the banks of the Guadalupe River in other locations, essentially waiting for it to rise. Please do not do that. Please look out for yourself, look out for your loved ones. Water can rise very, very quickly, and I'll say it again, do not underestimate the power of this water.
You know, this reminds me a little bit of the deadly floods that we saw in Wimberley. You know, 10 years ago, that was in 2015 over Memorial Day weekend. The reason I'm bringing this up is because at that time, I was an anchor and reporter over in Corpus Christi. At that time, there were 13 people who died. We saw damage just like this to homes and infrastructure. And part of the reason that was so deadly is because you had a number of people from outside the Wimberley area who were there, who didn't know to listen to certain alerts. And you had families who passed away. And we just don't want that to happen this time around. So please be careful. Just get out of there if you can.
Yeah, we're still, as we mentioned earlier, we are still waiting for a press conference that was scheduled to start about 3 o'clock with Kerrville and Kerr County officials. Right now, there's a holdup. It's delayed a little bit. You can imagine, hopefully, they are getting together the very latest information to share with everybody. We're going to take a quick break. We have a crew waiting for that to start. We'll bring it to you live as soon as somebody steps up to the podium. But for now, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. It is a brand new space for people in addiction recovery, but it's unique in one way. It is specifically for people in the LGBTQ plus community.
Our Courtney Friedman invited to sit in on a special recovery meeting where she saw how the new center offers love and comfort.
It's a safe, loving space where emotions, struggle, and gratitude flow freely.
You know, we have work to do in relationships, as in the rest of life.
We find ourselves in really hard times in which we're struggling, and it's nice to be reminded or surrounded by messages that say that love can flow with ease.
Being able to cultivate really loving, healthy relationships with other people in recovery has been such a gift for me.
This is a meeting at the Diversity Recovery Center, a brand new space for addiction recovery meetings, specifically for the LGBTQ plus community.
A person in recovery walks into a space. They're really scared, especially if they're new. So when you're LGBTQIA and you walk into this space, you start seeing that, oh, I'm home and I'm going to be safe here.
With 30 years of sobriety, Chris Crouch wanted to give back by bringing the Diversity Recovery Center to San Antonio. His goal was to make it different than any other LGBTQ plus recovery space. This is not just for 12-step meetings like Alcoholics Anonymous. It's for all types of recovery programs.
It's 12-step programs, Dharma recovery, Rise recovery, Smart recovery, anything that has to do with addiction recovery, including trauma work.
And I can also see people that are here to have one-on-one meetings with their, spiritual mentors, congregating at the same time, and it's just really beautiful to see.
Diversity Recovery Center member Jonathan Garcia says it's an all-inclusive space for a community that is often not included. Do you see the
What are you doing here today?
I'm waiting for my son to be reintegrated over here.
Okay. Where was your son?
He was at his mom's house on the edge of the river. They woke up at 3:30 with water in the house and went up to the attic to try to get away from the water. Water rose all the way up to the top. They were able to get rescued eventually. They called me because they couldn't get through to 911 because of the system was bogged down. So I called 911 from Austin, and then they patched me over. We got them the address, and they were rescued. Now they were put in a Hunt church that was over there, and we're awaiting them to be moved over here.
Okay. And whereabouts on the river were they, sir?
Right off 39, right on the edge, pretty close to the edge of the river. They have a cabin over there.
In Kerrville or up in Hunt? Sorry.
In Hunt.
In Hunt.
Yes.
All right. Can you tell me about getting that call, trying to call 911, making sure your son and his mom are okay?
It was a scary moment. Just getting to that point of hearing your 9-year-old son was in an attic with the water rising and they couldn't get out. They're hearing stuff crashing into the house, and I can't do anything because I'm 2 hours away. And so hearing that they couldn't get through to 911 and making that call as a first responder, it was a pretty easy decision that I made and got them taken care of, and then the other guys took care of the rest and got them rescued within an hour, which was very fast.
And how did you end up here at this location?
As soon as I got the word, we jumped in the car and drove down here just to, if they were rescued quickly, to be able to receive them quickly, and they weren't waiting, but also trying to beat the water crossing. So we went to 4 different crossings trying to get to the actual place they were dropped off, and it was just all washed out, or the river was too violent to be able to cross.
All right. Have you been able to talk to them since, or not since you called 911?
We've been in contact with them the entire time. They thankfully had their phones charged and didn't lose battery, so they're still good. They're in good health and condition now. There's 8 of them that are over there, so it was a pretty large group that they rescued.
Okay, what were they doing? Out with friends or something, or that's just the family's big?
They were just spending 4th of July on the river, and they're having a good time and enjoying themselves. So, not ready for what happened, but they took care of business and got everything squared away.
All right. I guess, how are you feeling right now as you're waiting here?
Anxious, nervous, just ready for him to be back and ready for him to be in a safe place and away from the river and the floodwaters. And as the rain continues and things have kind of slowed up a little bit, we feel a little bit better, but definitely ready for him to be back.
Any word on when you're going to be able to see them?
No, not yet. It's right now. Life safety and finding the people that are missing is definitely the priority. I was one of the lucky ones to be able to get him here and him rescued. So now we're just waiting, and I'm okay for waiting for other people to be rescued for him to get here.
All right. Good luck, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm glad that your kid's safe.
Thank you.
All right, Garrett Berger there talking with a father who is at one of those reunification sites. I believe the Arcadia Live is that location where Garrett was, talking with a father who was waiting to be reconnected with his son. He said that the boy and his mom were staying at a cabin right there along the river, woke up to water coming into the house, and he made a good point. He has connected with them, thankfully. It sounds like they are safe, just waiting to reconnect. But that father trying to get there trying to, actually get on the road and be where his son is. A lot of these places are cut off right now. You cannot go through these, especially low water crossings. A lot of areas are flooded. If they don't have water over the roads, there might be trees and debris and cars and other damage. So that is something that, first responders are surely dealing with as well in all of this.
As a matter of fact, I was looking online right now just because online social media, Facebook, that's another way that the city of Kerrville and Kerr County officials are trying to get the word out to people, again, because self-service isn't necessarily all that great. And we know that about 2 hours ago, the city of Kerrville, City Hall, they put out a notice on Facebook, and they were just telling people, please stay home, don't go out. Don't go out and try to take pictures. I know that it's tempting to try and go out if there's an area right outside of your home just to see what's happening. But what they're saying is, please be aware of your surroundings. Make way for first responders if you see them coming. There are still rescue operations underway. As a matter of fact, we don't know how many people have been rescued so far. We know that when Kerr County leaders were talking at 11:30, they didn't even have a number of rescues that had already taken place because that was still active. But what they're saying is, please, 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 first responders have been hindered over at rescue sites because there are people filming, taking photographs of the flood. Please don't do that.
Yeah. And we, obviously we have crews out there. We've got cameras out there, but we are out of the way of first responders so that they can do their jobs, because we want to hear from them. We want them to be able to, obviously, priority number one, to protect lives, to save lives, to get families reunified. But we want to hear from them when they do. So we're supposed to be hearing a press conference start with Kerr County and Kerrville city officials. That was set to start about the same time that a press conference up in Austin with the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick was set to begin as well. Right now, obviously, we're here at 3:20. Neither of those have taken place so far, but the second they do, we've got live coverage of that we will bring to you. And you mentioned the 11:30 press conference. We did hear from, I believe it was the Kerr County judge at that time, who said, we've got some numbers. They said we have some of that information, but they were not sharing it at that time about whether it was reunifications, missing people still, or even fatalities. That can't be lost in all this, that we do know we have confirmed fatalities. So this is information that while we wait for this latest update, we'll take you back to what we were told at 11:30 this morning, which is the latest update we have heard from local officials there in Kerrville. Let's take a listen here.
Suffice it to say, this has been a very devastating and deadly flood. I happen to live on Highway 39, which was the Guadalupe River this morning, and from the benchmarks from the people that my wife bought the property from years ago, this far surpasses the 87 flood.
We knew there was going to be a problem. Why weren't these camps evacuated?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Well, you're the judge. I mean, you're the top official here in this county. Why can't you answer that? There are kids missing. These camps were in harm's way. We knew this flood was coming.
We didn't know this flood was coming. Rest assured, no one knew this kind of flood was coming. We have floods all the time. This is the most dangerous river valley in the United States.
I agree.
And we deal with floods on a regular basis. When it rains, we get water. We had no reason to believe that this was going to be anything like what's happened here. None whatsoever.
So some tense moments during that press conference when members of the media were questioning about, were there warnings? If so, why not? It is an area that is prone to flooding. We know that a lot of these camps that were in question that they were talking about there, these cabins are right on the river. And we have seen just how high that water rose and how high it still is in a lot of places. So questions about what happens going forward, warnings in the future, that'll be answered at a later date. Right now, the biggest concern is the number of people who are still missing, the number of families that are still waiting to get word on whether their loved ones are safe.
And also, we do know that when Kerr County leaders spoke that they were getting help from the state, the Texas Department of Emergency Management was coming in to help them with all of the search and rescue efforts. Obviously, although this is an area that does get flooding, and we know that even earlier this year they did have a little bit of flooding, right? We're around Kerrville, and we know that whenever it it snows. There's a lot of ice in the area. So this is an area where leaders there are used to responding to weather situations where people might get stuck. But obviously the resources that they have are simply not enough to do everything that they need to do.
And being used to it is one thing, but this is
something
a
else.
Totally different situation. I mean, that's what we heard from Kerr County officials, Kerrville officials, saying that this was catastrophic. This is not something that they knew was coming. And I believe even in that same press conference, not from the county judge himself, but from another local official there, he said that he just, on his personal time, was out walking or taking a jog, something around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock this morning along the river, and there were no signs of this at that time in his location.
That's the scariest part. Even when we spoke with our friend from the Kerr County lead, Louis Amistoy, he was saying, I asked him, I said, how did you find out that this was getting as bad as it was? And he said, I was sleeping. I was woken up by this. And that's the most terrifying thing when you hear about all of this. And I can only imagine those poor kids who were at those campsites. I mean, at that moment, just trying to round everybody up and get them out to safety. So we are hoping, we're praying that we have an update on that very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we should mention all this happening in the Hill Country. We know that we've got some rain here in San Antonio, or had some a little bit earlier. Our meteorologists over here in the Weather Center have told us, this kind of flooding, a flooding concern is not something that we need to be concerned about today in San Antonio. Of course, it is the 4th of July, a lot of festivities, a lot of people outside, or planned to be, because of all this. And we did just get word the city of Boerne is canceling tonight's fireworks show. A lot of factors contributed to that decision, they said, including limited resources, as members of the Boerne Fire Department and Boerne Police Department are supporting our neighbors during ongoing emergency response efforts up there in Kerrville. So just want to bring that to everybody.
And I believe we also heard that leaders in Bexar County were also sending resources up there right now. Obviously, all hands on deck. When Mayor Joe Herring was talking earlier today, he said that every single asset possible has been deployed because, for the recovery process that's underway. I mentioned a moment ago, the Texas Department of Emergency Management is helping in all of this. There are a number of helicopters out there doing aerial rescues right now, or at least trying to assess the damage and seeing how many people need to be rescued. But the one thing that the leaders there did ask for is cooperation and obviously prayers.
Yeah. Let's go live now to Austin. This is Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick giving a briefing from the state capitol.
We had a disastrous flash flood that hit somewhere around 4 in the morning. The rain came down 12 inches or more per hour. Within 45 minutes, the Guadalupe River, and many people watching or listening know that they have, maybe in the past, when they were younger, or taking their kids or grandkids down, you've tubed down the Guadalupe. That river rose 26 feet in 45 minutes. It was a dry bed. It had been dry. There wasn't a lot to absorb it. It went down the rocks, and it was a destructive flood, taking property and, sadly, lives. I know that there are anxious parents watching, wanting information. We have the best rescue teams and response teams in the world in emergencies. Currently, we have 14 helicopters in the air. I've been receiving calls on my personal cell from people who know someone or have someone that was in one of these summer camps. We do not need anyone showing up with a drone. We do not need any more personal helicopters. I know it's been offered. We do not need more additional air assets. We have 14 choppers in the air. It gets dangerous even with that many flying. So I know some of you have said, oh, we can be there, we can help. We do not need any more helicopters or drones flying in the area. We have 14 choppers, as I said, 12 drones, 9 rescue teams, swimmers in the water, rescuing adults and children out of trees. We have 400 to 500 people on the ground from all of our various units, and Freeman Martin, our director of DPS, can talk about the various units who are there. For the parents who are waiting, particularly that had children in Camp Mystic. Camp Mystic is a camp that has over 750 kids. Right now, there are 20-some that aren't accounted for. That does not mean they've been lost. They could be in a tree. They could be out of communication. We're praying for all of those missing to be found alive. We're doing everything we can to get in there. We have the game wardens. You were the colonel of the game wardens, Pete, walking in by foot, driving, dropping in the water, whatever we can do to find everyone we can. That camp is divided into 2 banks. For those of you, parents who have children at Camp Mystic, this is a notice they sent out. They know all of the names of the parents, all the email addresses, all the phone calls, all the cell numbers so they can make the calls. Their following message: we have sustained catastrophic level of flooding. We have no power, water, or Wi-Fi. All Cypress Lake campers are accounted for. So if your child was in Cypress Lake, that camp is divided into certain areas. All Cypress Lake campers are accounted for. All campers on Senior Hill are accounted for. If your daughter is not accounted for, you have been notified from the camp. If you have not been personally contacted, then your daughter has been accounted for. I want to repeat that. And this is not from the state, not from the government. This is from the camp director on the ground. If you have not been personally contacted, then your daughter is accounted for. Instead of telling 700 or 800 parents your daughter is accounted for, they're calling those parents with the news that their daughter is not accounted for yet. They're working with the search and rescue with the state, obviously, and I know I've had parents. I have 8 grandchildren. I know if it was one of my children, I would be tempted to want to drive there from Houston as well. But we're asking people to stay away from the areas. There's flooding in many roads are impassable, major roads, minor roads. And once we're able to get some of those roads clear, when the rain stops, then we have 10 buses ready to go in and pick up the kids, and we'll find a point and announce it at that time where you can be reunited with your child and hug them hard, because you know they're frightened. But again, out of the over 700, we have the number of about 23 not accounted for. Yesterday, Jay Hall, who is Region Director 6, personally contacted the judges and the mayors in that area and notified them all of potential flooding. This storm, we had an area bracketed from San Angelo to Waco, down to San Antonio, Kerrville, all the areas. Not exactly sure where it would land. Some forecasts started coming together late, showing where it might land. But yesterday morning, the message was sent. It is up to the local counties and mayors under the law to evacuate if they feel a need. But that information was passed along. Because we were unsure of where the storm might land, Nim Kid, who is on the ground there, I'm heading to Kerrville after this, and I will join out there at the emergency center. We started moving assets in various areas, not knowing where it would be, but in various areas on Friday, so that in the event, wherever the storm hit and wherever the flooding occurred, if it was flooding, that we would be on the ground as close as we could be, as fast as we could be. This is an area that has lots of camps, thousands of children throughout those camps, especially in the summertime on the 4th of July weekend. The main area that we have heard from so far is the Camp Mystic area. We have not had reports from other camps at this point of a loss, but that does not mean there has not been. We just have not had any report. There have been confirmed deaths. That number changes, and the one thing I've learned in this position over many disasters that Governor Abbott or I have had to cover, the first news is always not the correct news. And you always pray for it being better. But I'm not going to give exact numbers, but we don't have exact numbers, but somewhere between 6 and 10 bodies have been found, some in cars that were washed down upstream that came down into the area. Some are adults, some are children. Again, we don't know where those bodies came from, and was it from a camp? Was it from one of the many homes that are all along the Guadalupe River? We just obviously don't know that at this time. I want to turn it over to our Director, Freeman Martin, to talk about our response from DPS and the other agencies.
Governor, thank you. This is it's a tragic event. It's going to be a mass casualty event. We know that. We prepared. We moved resources into the area. This is a Texas response. This is not DPS. This is the Texas Military Department, Texas Department of Public Management. We have Parks and Wildlife. We have every local agency in the area. We're working hand in hand with the Kerr County Sheriff, the San Antonio Police Department, really the San Antonio region. There were many, many cities and law enforcement agencies and first responders self-deployed. So we have plenty of resources on the ground. Lieutenant Governor mentioned over 500 boots on the ground. Texas DPS alone, we have over 100 troopers, agents, and rangers on the ground. We have 7 helicopters. We're supported by 5 TMD helicopters and 2 Parks and Wildlife helicopters. We have planned for shifts. We're going to work throughout the night. So when we started this at 4 o'clock in the morning, we've been working this all day. We've got a B shift and a C shift that are going to come in and relief, so there won't be a gap in the search and rescue operations. But the governor said it accurately, is there's too many unknowns, and there's information that sometimes it sounds conflicting. You have a report that there's 20 people missing from one camp, and then you have a report that everybody's accounted for. Well, there's 2 camps that are split with the same name. So we don't want to get in front of that. It's taken some time to get in there with all the resources we have. As bad as the storm was this morning, our helicopters had a hard time getting in. And so a lot of people that were cut off, that were counted as missing, they don't have self-service or electricity, but they're on high ground and they're safe. So we have gotten to several of these where there's as many as 200 in one location. We're able to bring in food and water and supplies to them. It's just taking time to get them out of there. At the same time, there's other camps where we know their people are missing, and there's search and rescue operations going on. Parks and Wildlife using their boat teams, some of our tactical marine assets. They go as far as they can go, and then they go on foot the rest of the way. So it's not easy, but we're making progress and hope to have better numbers later this afternoon. As the Lieutenant Governor said, we'll be on the ground here shortly with our first responders there in Kerrville. I know there's reunification centers stood up, one in Ingram at the elementary school, at 125 West Brave Run in Ingram. There's another one at the Arcadia Live Center on Walter Street in Kerrville. And then there's media staging at the Hill Country Youth Event Center in Kerrville, where there'll be a media press event later on. A couple of things. Lieutenant Governor said we don't need any more first responders. We don't need anybody to self-deploy. We don't need any more drones or helicopters. We don't need people just showing up. This is a very coordinated response. Stay away from the area. If you can, stay home with your families. That's the right thing to do, to stay out of this area. There's working with TxDOT. We know there's over 85 locations that have been impacted by high water, and at least 25 roads shut down. Right now, the rain has let up, but we know there's another wave coming, and then there's going to be some more impact downstream later tonight and tomorrow that we're concerned about. So we'll continue to work with locals. We're also doing rescue operations and evacuation operations in Tom Green County and Kimball County. We're concerned about San Saba downriver. So there will be more notifications coming out. If you're asked to evacuate, please evacuate. If you are on a roadway and you see water, you have no idea how deep that water is or how swift it is. Stop, turn around. Do not try to cross water if you don't know, you can't tell how deep it is. But the best advice is stay home. And I know y'all want numbers. I wish we had numbers. Those numbers change frequently. Like I said, some people are reporting as missing, and they're not missing. They were evacuated. They're safe. They just didn't. No family member is concerned, not knowing where they are. So, with that, Governor, I'll turn it back over to you.
I do want to mention before I turn it over to Pete that I was in touch with the governor early this morning with Senator Ted Cruz. We've been in touch. Tried to reach out to the sheriff, or not tried, reached out to the sheriff and the county judge in Kerr County, and understandably they're busy, not answering their phone. They're getting a lot of calls from a lot of people, but that's why we're going down there. But we are in touch between our departments. We are in touch with them. We've had multiple calls from the White House today. I've talked to several people at the White House. The president has sent the message, whatever we need, we will have. We are sending in the Army Corps of Engineers. It's one of the requests we made to look at the dam at Canyon Lake to make sure that dam holds. I just had a meeting with them before I came out here. I said, is the dam safe? And they said, it is safe, sir. I said, safe tomorrow? It is safe, sir. I said, well, if anything changes on that, you call me on speed.
All right, so there you just heard from state officials, the lieutenant governor giving the very latest on what we know about what has happened with this deadly flooding event. We have a crew standing by in Kerrville, and I want to get to them really quickly. This is the press conference happening there locally in Kerrville. Okay, so they're getting ready to talk. Looks like they're still getting everybody together. Really quickly, before we toss to that, urgent flood warning coming from Comal County. If you are along the Guadalupe River, this is Comal County Emergency Management. They are saying between the Kendall and Comal County line and Canyon Lake, you need to evacuate. Okay, let's listen.
Now let's listen.
We will have some local and state partners today speaking about this response and all that's going on. We understand the public has many questions about what has happened, about evacuations, about the number of casualties and other information. At this point, it is simply too early to confirm all of these details accurately. This is an active, evolving emergency, and our teams are working around the clock to rescue survivors, reunite families, and collect reliable information. We know this uncertainty is incredibly hard, and we want everybody to know that every resource available is being directed towards search and recovery. This is a very wide response throughout all of Kerr County. As soon as we can confirm details, we will deliver them to you with transparency. We also want to be upfront that due to the rapidly changing nature of this situation, we will not be taking questions at the conclusion of this briefing. We are committed to keeping you informed, and we will provide the media with a time and location for the next scheduled press conference as soon as we're confirmed. At this time, I would like to invite Kerr County Sheriff Larry Letha for an update.
All right. Okay, well. Yeah, those y'all. I'm Sheriff, Kerr County Sheriff Larry Letha. Want to tell you, appreciate y'all coming down here to cover this stuff. What I want you to know, we're not here to hide anything from the media. We'll keep y'all updated as much as we can, as fast as we can. But y'all got to understand, right now, the only concern we have is rescuing everybody and all these kids out here. What I can say, there's still several people unaccounted for right now at this point, but we're working really hard and we're going to continue. This is probably going to be a couple of day process, okay? We don't know when it's going to stop raining, how much more, hopefully not much more. What I can tell you at this time, currently, we have identified 13 fatalities. Okay, well, sorry, we haven't identified, we have located 13. That's at this time. I think there'll be more when this is over and time to tell. We'll do our best job to keep you all informed as we can. What I'd like to tell you about is our reunification centers. One of them is at Ingram Elementary. That address is 125 Brave Run West, Ingram, Texas. The other one is at the Arcadia Live, which is at 717 Water Street here in Kerrville. So one of the biggest questions we've had is where can we call? How do we get a hold, or how do we find our loved ones? What you'll do is you'll contact the Red Cross. The number is 1-800-733-2767. What I'm going to ask the public to do at this time, what we need is, we've got a lot of assets here from every agency. I actually really don't know what all. I mean, they keep coming in. My phone doesn't stop. We've got a lot of help out there. We'll be able to do the job. It's just going to take some time. But I ask everybody to shelter in place, okay, if you can. That's what I'd like to get out. Please shelter in place. We're working really hard. We don't have a number of how many are missing. Obviously, we're working hard and around the clock to do that. So at this time, I'll turn it back over to PIO Clint Morris.
Thank you, Sheriff Letha. Now I'd like to welcome to the microphone Kerrville Mayor Joe Herring Jr.
Thank you for being here. Our job today is to give you information as soon, as quickly, and as accurately as we can. I want to say another time, thank you to all the dedicated men and women from so many different agencies who are here to help. City crews, county crews, and state crews are working extremely hard to help in this situation. I want the public to know we are doing everything we can to rescue those who are in peril and to find those who are missing. Now I'd like to call on City Manager Dalton Rice.
Thank you, Mayor Herring. Dalton Rice, the City Manager for the City of Kerrville. I really want to appreciate and thank everybody for their patience. We know that this is a lot going on. We know that some of the times have changed. As I said before in the previous briefing, this situation has evolved very quickly and it's still actively going on. So I want to kind of share a couple things. We have what we know, we have what we don't know, and we have what we don't know we don't know. And so we're continuously working through this process. Kind of just a real quick brief history of what happened on the timeline this morning. The North and South Fork, which feed into the Guadalupe, hit peaks about 3 a.m., give or take. Don't quote me on my times, but somewhere around 3:30, 3 a.m. I was on the river trail at that time, and everything was fine. Within an hour to hour and a half to 2 hour period, it was up almost to the bridge. So it rose very quickly, very significantly. We even had crews, out just getting ready for the 4th of July event, and we could not anticipate this. Despite flood warnings, despite everything going on, there were some things that happened very fast. When those two rivers converged, or two forks converged, it created obviously a large flood event. In that, because of the early morning hours and because of the holiday weekend or holiday time period, those were not yet awake, and there was a lot of people that were sleeping. And so as we are going through the camps, we are still trying to figure out where people are, what's going on, and how to best serve those. So again, thank you for your patience. I'm going to throw a lot of information out to you guys as far as shelters. We do have multiple shelters set up. Shriner University Event Center at 2100 Memorial Boulevard. First United Methodist Church at 321 Thompson Drive. Calvary Temple Church, 3000 Loop 534. Notre Dame Catholic Church, 929 Main Street. We also have a donation center located. You can call the Red Cross. They are not quite set up as far as donations yet. However, Cross Kingdom at 3044 Jet Highway, 830-367-3480 is taking donations, so please contact them if there's any donations out there. We are working on getting a volunteer set up, so we understand that a lot of people want to help, a lot of people want to provide their assets and their time, but please bear with us while we get a number and get a volunteer coordinator set up. So if you want to help, give us some time. We are currently still actively rescuing, so we are not quite into recovery mode yet. We are still actively trying to find those that are out and those that are needing assistance. A couple utility updates. KPUB, Kerrville Public Utility Board, our electric co-op. We have about 2,800 customers that still remain without power. Damage assessments are ongoing. We are having obviously some still active flooding and some road closures that are impacting KPUB operations. We do have some other sites that are currently underwater still. So we do not have an estimated time for restoration. That will be delayed. Again, stay away from down power lines. If you think it's a line, just stay away from it. You can report outages 24/7 on the Smart Hub app, online at kpub.com, or 855-959-2496. We will be moving the EOC about 1,800 at some point. We also, as far as water, we did have a couple water main breaks that are being resolved. Some of the floods and flooding damage has caused some water main breaks. So we do have crews out there to identify those breaks as well. If you do not have to be on the road, please stay off the roads. Let emergency vehicles pass. We've had some issues with emergency vehicles not being able to get to their locations or to get to the places that they're trying to rescue people or save people. This will go into the evening. We plan on working around the clock. Our next operational period will start, and we'll continue to get information out to y'all in a timely manner. So without that, I will turn it back over to Clint. Thank you.
Thank you, Dalton. Okay, that's going to about conclude what we're doing for this event. Our next communication, we're estimating for about 7 to 7:30 this evening. We urge the public to continue to monitor our social media channels for the Kerr County Sheriff's Office, as well as Kerr County, the City of Kerrville, and that will help you get to the most recent information that we have, especially about what we need you to do to stay safe. Thank you very much.
How many missing from Camp Mystic? Is there any Spanish?
So you just heard an update there from the Kerr County officials, and the bit of information that sticks out the most is that when the Kerr County Sheriff spoke a moment ago, he said 13 fatalities. That is, we got a clear number because a few minutes before that, when we were listening to the press conference over in Austin, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said that there were anywhere between 6 and 10 bodies that were found as a result of the flooding, but we have obviously a clear number there from the Kerr County Sheriff. But the thing is that he also said he does think that there will be more because right now they're in an active rescue mode right now. And the one bit of good news here is that this has been all hands on deck, right? So there are there's city, county, and also state crews that are helping in the entire recovery effort. Didn't we hear something about 500 boots on the ground?
400 to 500 first responders there on the ground, many of whom are from San Antonio. We heard in that state press conference, they said a lot of these folks are local first responders, self-deployed, meaning they just took it upon themselves to head out to that area. If you missed that press conference a little bit earlier, we're going to wrap up all of this information and summarize it for you in just a bit. But right now, our Sarah Acosta is standing by in an area. Sarah, I'm sure it's hard for you to hear. There's a helicopter in the background, helicopters, it looks like, hopefully performing these rescues. Tell us where you are and what you're looking at.
We are in Kerrville. We are off Loop 534, and you can see that helicopter in the distance. This is the third helicopter within the last 2 minutes that have just kind of been rushing by, and I've been here for about 2 hours at this location off of Waterfront Drive, off of Loop 534 near Bandera Highway. We have seen helicopters along the Guadalupe River, which is still very swollen behind me, and rushing at this point. They are going up and down the river all day long. We've been here for several hours, and we've witnessing several helicopters coming and going. And this is Waterfront Drive. It's a neighborhood that backs into the Guadalupe River. And just to show the devastation, the force of the water, you're looking at the foundation of a home. That's the only thing that is left. That home completely swept away, floated about, I would say about a football field's length from where we are. And we were talking to neighbors, and the neighbors fear that the family that lived there may have not survived. We are still waiting on confirmation from that. Said that there was a family of 4 that lived there. And we spoke to the resident who lives here. And you can see his home has been destroyed as well. Like, I want to show you guys this. This is the foundation of his home. Something similar that happened next door could have happened here. He and his wife did survive, and they say they are very, very fortunate because of that. You can see that the home completely shifted off at this foundation. He took us inside the home earlier and gave us a tour of that damage. He said that the water rose so quickly that his wife and him did not have time to evacuate. They were actually pushed out of their home, and they said that the water took them down the river, and they clung to a crepe myrtle bush for 30 minutes around 7 o'clock this morning until they were rescued by a police officer and other first responders who were able to form a human chain and rescue him. And you could see just the force of that water inside this house that has just been gutted, destroyed. But you know, he was telling us he is just so fortunate that he and his wife survived this. They did have a dog that they actually found, you know, waiting for them when they returned back home after being rescued. One of their dogs, he said, unfortunately did not survive. And you know, this is just one of many homes here along the Guadalupe River that have either been completely floated, swept away, or damaged like this one. But his story was so compelling, you know, saying they hung on to that crepe myrtle tree for about 30 minutes, and he's just so fortunate that they were able to survive and be rescued. And he just said the water just came so fast. They did not have time to evacuate. Within a matter of minutes, he said that, you know, he couldn't even get to his cars because they were completely flooded. And, you know, we've just been here all morning taking a look at the damage. That rain finally starting to, you know, clear up over here, and hopefully that will help this river not be so swollen, not be so aggressive, so they can get in there and continue doing that rescues. But coming up later in our shows at 5 and 6, you'll hear from the homeowner who's going to tell us his story and walk through exactly what happened early this morning when that water took the home next door and rushed into his house as well. Live from Kerrville, I'm Sarah Acosta, KSAT 12 News. Back to you guys.
Yeah, that report from Sarah just gave me chills, you know, because when you look behind her also when she's in that home, the home right next to it looked like the water just picked it up and just flung it. And then this house where she was right there, you can tell when you were looking at the background that it looked new. It looked like a new, so you built to code, right? You could assume, and it's just, I'm so happy that that couple was able to talk to Sarah and that they survived it. But again, when they said minutes. And
they clung to a crepe myrtle bush. I mean, this is not like a huge tree that they got up and out of the water. They were able to hold on for 30 minutes to a crepe myrtle and get out of this. I mean, that just shows you how quickly this water rose. These are folks that are obviously familiar with the river. They live right there on it. They've, you know, perhaps seen some flooding in this area before, but nothing like this. So, yeah, our thanks to Sarah Acosta and our photojournalist who was out there and continued to gather some more info.
So now we want to go back to a lot of the information that we gleaned from not only the Lieutenant Governor's press conference, but also the press conference basically we did get the most updated information from leaders there in Kerr County. And when the sheriff of that Kerr County, Larry Letha, spoke a moment ago, he did confirm 13 fatalities, 13 people have been identified dead, but he does think that there are going to be more as all of the first responders on the ground continue their rescue operations. They're going to find more people.
He did say that among those 13, the lieutenant governor rather said some were adults, some were children. Those who have died in this flood, they don't know if they were from that area. Some were found in cars that perhaps washed downstream, came from somewhere else. They did mention, state leaders rather, that they don't need any additional help. A lot of people have very graciously stepped up and said, hey, we've got helicopters, we've got other tools and things that we can help you guys in this rescue and recovery effort. And the lieutenant governor saying they don't need that right now. They've got swimmers in the water. They've got 400 to 5 people on the ground. They are rescuing people out of trees. We did hear that there are, at least in one location, they know of some 200 people kind of stranded. They're on dry ground. They're okay, but just getting to that number of people, especially in the areas of some of these camps, getting them the resources they need and getting them out. You know, that's a huge undertaking. And dealing with all of this, this is what the terrain looks like. Dealing with flooding that still exists in some areas. Accessing those folks is a huge challenge for first responders. And the question about Camp Mystic, we heard the lieutenant governor talk about several camps in this area. They have not had any reports of other camps where there are ongoing issues. They at least haven't heard about that. But at Camp Mystic, this is a camp that usually has 750 kids. Right now, the lieutenant governor said 20-something 20-something campers are unaccounted for at this point. He says he has no indication what unaccounted for means. They could be somewhere like we were talking about, stranded, you know, hopefully safe and on high ground, waiting to be rescued. But that is, I mean, of all the things happening, that is just a devastating, gut-wrenching aspect of this, that we've got 20-plus families waiting to find out whether their kids are safe.
Now, when DPS spoke with state leaders, he said something that struck me, and because we heard it for the first time, a mass casualty event.
Yeah.
And so, again, 13 fatalities have been identified. We're going to stay here, keeping up to date with the county leaders. Also, we know that they're going to be speaking again in less than 4 hours or so. That press conference is supposed to be underway, and we do expect to get new numbers and new information as that happens. But we want you to stay right where you are, because we're going to be with you throughout the day providing updates.
Yeah, we'll be right back after a quick break. Stick with us.
For weeks now, we've reported about migrants being detained at immigration court in downtown San Antonio. These just some of the scenes. It is still happening, but now we're starting to see more minors being detained as well.
One attorney who is part of hearings at immigration court every day tells our Erica Hernandez that more people are not showing up for those hearings.
On any given day, this bus will sit outside immigration court downtown on De La Rosa Street. On rare days, it leaves empty, but most days, migrants are detained after their case is dismissed in court and will sit inside. Laura Flores Dixit is an attorney for American Gateways and is here most days trying to help.
We want to let people know what options each individual has in their particular situation, so that they can make an informed decision about whether or not to go into the courtroom to present their case, whether to appear virtually.
While more virtuals are being granted, it always just...
We're tracking flooding along the Guadalupe.
Okay, and thank you so much for joining us here on KSAT as we continue our wall-to-wall coverage of the devastating flooding over in Kerrville, Kerr County right now. That's where we're really seeing the bulk of all of the fatalities that have been reported so far.
And we just got a lot of information from officials at both the state level and local level. So I believe we have a graphic that's compiling some of the main points about what we know so far. Whenever we have that ready, you guys just go ahead back there in the control room and pop that up. We know that there are 13 fatalities. We also know, and I want to mention this because so much of the focus right now is on Kerrville, the Guadalupe River in other areas. You see that second bullet point here, Guadalupe River expected to crest in Spring Branch this evening. Adam Caskey's been telling us the water will start rising late this evening, 8 o'clock-ish. If you know anybody who is in that area, it's July 4th. There are so many people that flock to the Guadalupe River for, the holiday, camping, things like that. Let them know the water will be rising. Emergency crews have been deployed, shelter and reunification centers. Many of them, I believe we've got 6 in the Kerrville area set up. There is an evacuation notice for areas outside of Kerrville. The Comal County Emergency Management, they put out an urgent notice telling people that last bullet point on your screen. If you are anywhere near the Kendall-Comal County line between there and Canyon Lake along the river, get out. Evacuate now. Get to higher ground. Get somewhere safe.
Okay, so now we're going to send things on over to our reporter, Daniela Ibarra. She is live on the scene right now. She's going to be joining us with a member of the Red Cross. And these are the people who have been helping a lot with these rescue efforts. Daniela, what can you tell us?
Yeah, so we're outside one of the shelters in Kerrville that the American Red Cross is taking care of people at. And I'm joined now by Richard McAllister. You're one of the volunteers here. So this is just one of the shelters that you guys have in place right now, right?
That's right. We have 2 shelters open in Kerrville. The other is at Calvary Temple Church, so we can service all of the people in this community that need care.
How many people have you helped so far?
We have 28 people that have approached the shelter thus far looking for assistance. We are prepared to help far more people, so if there are folks out there in the hill country that need assistance after the flood, please come and see us.
So I know we're not allowed in because obviously a lot of people are just dealing with everything that happened today, but what have you heard from some of the people that you've been able to help?
The people are very traumatized, as you can imagine. This is some of the worst flooding in the history of the Hill Country. Their homes are gone. More than their homes, their lives are gone. Some of them are missing family and friends. It's a very traumatic time for them.
What has it been like for you talking to these people and hearing their stories?
It's always traumatic when you talk to folks that have experienced this type of disaster. They're in good spirits generally. Many of them want to help their fellow neighbor, and it's wonderful to see the resilience of people, even in the face of disaster. When they've lost everything, they still want to help their friends and their neighbors.
So people that need help, I know, some of them still processing everything that happened this morning and things that are still going on right now. This is the time when you guys are starting to hear people asking for help, right?
Yes. Right now we are set up, we're ready to offer help, and the way to get in touch with us is to call 800 Red Cross or to visit redcross.org and go on that site and indicate that you need help at the appropriate tab, and someone from the Red Cross will reach out to you. Or you can visit us at one of our shelter locations.
And so I know an issue that, when we've been talking to people in the morning, they had pets that they want to take. Pets are welcome, are they?
Pets are welcome at American Red Cross shelters. Bring your pets with you, and we will make sure that they have a safe and secure place to stay.
And how long is this shelter going to be open?
The shelter is going to be open as long as it takes. When the American Red Cross comes in, we come into the community to stay. We have shelters open around the nation that have been open for approaching a year now. So we're going to be in this community until the job is done.
Until the job is done. Thank you so much, Richard. Stephanie and Myra, I'll send it back to you.
Daniela, thank you. I'm glad you asked that about how long they plan to be there. You heard the answer, as long as it takes. This is, a situation that where it's 4 o'clock now, a few minutes after. We are 12 hours now into this. Adam, I know you've been talking about areas where the water is still coming, where we could potentially be looking at areas that are flooded downstream from all of this. What's the latest out there right now?
Yeah, so first it was Hunt, then Kerrville, and then downstream the Guadalupe River, where there's still some light rain falling, but that's not the important thing here. It's not the rain that's falling, it's the heavy rain that fell upstream earlier today, upwards of a foot of rain in the headwaters of the Guadalupe, and that's in Kerr County. And now this swell of water has already made it through Sisterdale, and I just checked the river gauge near Bergheim, okay? The river gauge, and by the way, this green outline on the screen here, that actually is the warning area for the Guadalupe River. So it kind of highlights where the river flows because it just snakes along here and kind of is hard to see on the map. Anyway, I just checked the river gauge near Bergheim, and in 1 hour, the river rose 18 feet. And I think it's still rising, to be honest with you. That swell of water, and it happens very quickly, is headed to Spring Branch, and we'll be making it to Spring Branch later on this evening and into tonight. So here's the forecast for Spring Branch, and let's go to this is the forecast from, oh, that's the wrong one, National Weather Service. Let's go to links 2 right here. Here we go. Guadalupe at Spring Branch. Okay, here we are now. There's a subtle rise in water at the moment along the Guadalupe at Spring Branch. This is that area that's right under 281 and that nice iron bridge that they have there. Well, it's going to happen very quickly, shortly around sunset, that the water is going to rise really quickly and expected to peak and crest at about 37 feet overnight tonight. So you could even go to bed saying, oh, hey, the water level's still down there, I'll be okay. You go to sleep and then boom, the water hits because that swell of water is going to continue to rapidly rise the river. And that's why we're saying anybody along or near the Guadalupe, especially the RV parks, any campgrounds, folks need to get to higher ground anywhere along the Guadalupe from well, basically Sisterdale now all the way to Canyon Lake. So that's the forecast from the Weather Service. Here's the area we're talking about. Canyon Lake right here. Anybody in Canyon Lake, you should be fine. The lake is only about half full right now and should be able to weather this swell of water no problem because the water level is so low. So we're not worried about the Canyon Dam and anywhere around Canyon Lake because it is so empty right now. That's actually going to help out this situation. But it's neighborhoods around Spring Branch here. You know, we have the newer community right here. This is one of the communities along 281, okay, River Crossing Boulevard. All right, so we're in Spring Branch, and this is where we have a little bit of a little RV park. Whispering Water, this roadway that's along the riverbank, and I know it's up high on the hill, but this roadway, Whispering Water, I'd get out of there, even if you're higher up on the hill, because the water will be rising quickly this evening. So I'm just showing you some of the communities that are directly along the Guadalupe that will be impacted by the flooding as this moves in. Other ones upstream, or I should say downstream, headed toward Canyon Lake. You have here Rust, River's End, FM 311, and we'll, of course, keep you updated because we do have more rainfall on the way tomorrow. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I know we've got our Katrina Weber, who is standing by in Bandera right now. Katrina, I believe at an RV park that's being evacuated there. What can you tell us?
Well, that is correct. This is an RV park along the Medina River. We're here at the Pioneer RV Park, and there are evacuations going on. In fact, most of the people have already left. They got the word a little bit earlier this afternoon that they would have to evacuate these lower levels that are closest to the river. But then a few minutes later, they say they got a knock on the door with orders from the sheriff's office that they need to get all of the people out of this RV park. They said they can leave their rigs behind if they want to or if they have to, but they do need to get everyone out. And so that is what has been going on here today. We had a chance to talk to some of the folks who are a little bit nervous about what's going on, especially when they look and see what happened up in Kirk County. They are not taking any chances for the most part. Everyone quickly complying with that order or that advice to get out, and that's what they've been doing. So it is pretty much a ghost town along this lower level of the park. Some of the people on the upper levels are waiting a little bit because they think they do have some time. But one woman did tell me she's grateful that they got that word in time and they were able to do this in the daylight and get out of harm's way. But you can see that people are still driving around, especially on this upper level, trying to make sure that they can get all of their property, all of their valuables out of the way, and especially their own selves. They don't want any casualties or any injuries here as a result of this flooding. So that's the situation we have going on here in Bandera County. Reporting live, Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
Okay, all right, and that was a good report there from Katrina Weber. But you know, when the photographer there was showing the water levels, and you see how quickly that river was flowing. Adam Caskey, our meteorologist, walked over and just gave us some information that area in Bandera, the water is going to be rising by 8 feet in the next hour. So this is something that when officials go into your area and they're telling people to leave, do so. There was a statement here from the Bergheim Volunteer Fire Department, and they're basically telling people, we know how difficult it is to leave your homes in this situation. It's everything that you have, right? It's just scary, but you don't want to be, you don't want to get stuck there. And so this person, the statement from the Volunteer Fire Department is they're basically telling people, if you're in low-lying areas near the Guadalupe River, consider leaving. Please do not stop on bridges. The bridge at FM 3351 is very narrow and very dangerous for you to stop and see the water. So they're basically telling people to heed those mandatory evacuation notices.
Yeah, and you know, they also talked about first responders, the hundreds of them that we know are out there putting their lives on the line to make sure that they can get people to safety, rescue folks, get them reconnected with their families. If you're in harm's way, if you're not heeding these warnings, you're putting their lives on the line too. That is something that we heard from Bergheim officials, just echoing that. Leave if you can. So we do have a graphic that we put up just a few moments ago, kind of hitting on some key points that the Kerr County and Kerrville officials shared with us. This is what we've learned in the last 30 minutes or so. 13 fatalities so far. More are expected. And I do want to say that earlier today, we heard from local officials who said they had numbers as far as this goes. They weren't sharing them. We also heard that from the state, and they talked about how they know numbers in this situation change. And we understand that. They even said that, as you can see there, more are expected. We understand that as well. We're thankful that we got some information today that we can bring you right now. The Guadalupe River expected to crest in Spring Branch this evening. Emergency crews deployed, shelters and reunification centers set up, an evacuation notice. Again, this is one of many places, but Kendall, Comal County line between there and Canyon Lake. That area is expected to see waters rise incredibly high. This is a list of shelters in Comfort that we now have. Take a look at your screen here if you are interested in shelters in Comfort. You know, just as a reminder to folks, like Adam Caskey said a few moments ago, we're now, as we keep a very close eye on Kerrville and the rescue efforts that are still happening there, we are looking downstream as this water is moving as we speak.
It's a good thing that the Red Cross, I mean, they're always there for us whenever some kind of emergency happens. But when Daniela Ibarra had the Red Cross on with her a moment ago, she said that the person told her that 28 people are at some of their shelters looking for assistance, but that they're going to be around as long as they need to be. And so you can expect that they're going to continue to add shelters if more people keep coming in and needing that help. But it's difficult right now because, again, if we don't even have a clear number on the number of people who are still unaccounted for, then you could, and we also don't know how many homes have been damaged and there are also people that still need to be rescued at this very hour right now. And so that's why there's a lot of information that we still don't know right now.
Yeah, and we do know that, you know, so much focus has been on the kids in this situation because of the camps that are in the area. Camp Mystic, these are 2 campers, and information's been swirling on social media, going back and forth about how many campers are missing, how many have been reunified with parents. This is one photo we got of some of the campers at Camp Mystic, and I will be honest, there's been some confusion about whether these 2 girls are safe and sound, whether they are actively being rescued, or whether they already have been. But their parents shared this photo with us, and we're passing it on to you, and we're doing everything we can to get confirmed information that officials know to be true so we can pass it on to you. Because as you can imagine, like answering some of the things that you were talking about, Stephanie, how many people are missing, how many have been reunified, all of that is, I mean, that is information that is changing so quickly because rescuers are making the effort to add to those numbers. So this is a photo of another camp, Camp La Junta, where a counselor, I believe, shared this picture with us, sent this to his mother sometime this morning around 4:30, saying this was a building there on the campgrounds, a cabin, and you can see just how high the water was.
Yeah, obviously, but it's just good news that he was able to take that picture up from a very high vantage point. Right. All we know is that the children who were with him were safe when he sent that picture to his mother. But obviously, there's still a lot that we're trying to find out. The Red Cross is a great resource right now if you're trying to get information on on the flooding, your loved ones. The number right there is on your screen: 1-800-733-2767.
I do want to mention again, we put up that graphic. I think we have one, control room, let me know, but a graphic of all the reunification locations in the Kerrville area. Ingram Elementary, I know, is a big one. We did see an email sent out to Camp Mystic, in particular, to those parents that campers were being evacuated, and that's where they were being taken, was to Ingram Elementary. Others, First United Methodist Church, Calvary Temple Church, Notre Dame Catholic Church, Shriner University Event Center, and the Arcadia Live, all reunification centers in the Kerrville area.
Okay, and now we're being told that we have new video into our newsroom right now, so we're going to show that right now. I don't know exactly where that video is coming from.
This is from Hunt.
That is from
Hunt, Texas.
Wow. Wow. Look at all those trees in that area. Obviously, that's not where they're supposed to be, but that video is coming into us. I don't know exactly when that video was taken, but you can see the extent of all of the damage there. A lot of the trees were uprooted, and there you see the river flowing. So we're getting another vantage point there, but obviously pretty scary stuff if you're in that area, and that's the video being looped again.
So as the water flows downstream, Adam Caskey was talking about this earlier, as it flows downstream, all of this debris, all of these tree branches, trees themselves that have been uprooted, all that thatch, that brush, it has the potential to get clogged somewhere, to get stuck somewhere, and could begin to hold water back. And then just given the force of the water, it has the potential to break free and to just become that big rush of water that we unfortunately see so often and happen so fast, and that is when lives are even more at risk. So I just hope people are heeding the warnings and, you know, taking care if they are in anywhere downstream along the Guadalupe River.
And Myra, that's one of the concerns we were talking about earlier as the floodwaters get to Spring Branch in particular, where you have the big bridge of 281 crossing over the river, which is likely, very likely to be inundated later on tonight with the water up above the road level on that bridge. That bridge structure, you know, the nice wrought iron arcing structure, that could very well trap some of that debris and dam up the river a little bit right there, just to make the flooding a little bit worse right there at 281. Now I want to get to this. Okay, we're looking Kendall County. You see this blue dot I have right here. This is a river gauge along the Guadalupe River. Here's the Guadalupe River. You see it snakes through near Sisterdale, goes all the way up out of Comfort, roughly like that. And then it's going to keep snaking around Kendall County before it gets into Comal County. But right here, just west of Bergheim, at this crossing of the Guadalupe River, I'm going to zoom into the crossing, FM 474 at Ammons Crossing. That has been rising 5 to 6 feet every 15 minutes. That's how quickly this happens. It's up 28 feet in about 2 hours. Now, the water level is at 33 feet, whereas just a few hours ago, it was a gentle stream at just 5 feet for the water level, and now that's up to 33 feet. So that's right here at Ammons Crossing. So then we need to follow that swell of water. That's where it's already made it. It's made it to Ammons Crossing, and it's going to continue its trek, winding its way through Kendall County into Comal County. And then here's Comal County, Guadalupe River State Park, and then over to Spring Branch. So we're watching all these communities. If you're along the river, the Guadalupe River, basically anywhere near Spring Branch all the way to Canyon Lake and west of Spring Branch, I mean, that goes for the Campground and River Outfitter near Bergheim, the Bergheim Campground and River Outfitter, Rivermont POA Park, Nichols Landing hiking area. These are the areas that are basically being impacted. Of course, Spring Branch Road at Guadalupe River, RV park and campgrounds, all being affected by this swell of water. And it's what we've been saying. A lot of RV parks along the river and campgrounds, that is not where you want to be. You want to get to higher water. And I know in Spring Branch, where we have the crossing right here at 281, that's where we have one of our river sensors. And in the flood of 98, the water level at that point was at 27.4 feet. The forecast is for 37 feet later on tonight. And in the flood of 98 at that level, Highway 281 was covered. So the river is likely to be well above the roadway of Highway 281, which does put all these communities at risk along the Guadalupe near Spring Branch. If you're right along the river You want to get to higher ground, you still have time to do it. It's going to happen fast later on this evening. I think especially by 9 p.m. we'll really start to see that water rise fast. Back to you.
And that's the scary thing, Adam, when this happens as people are home at nighttime, when it's dark outside. That's why I hope people are hearing this right now and spreading the message to anybody who may be at some of these campgrounds or may have, rented a house or something like that to celebrate the 4th, because there are so many people who are in these areas along the Guadalupe River for today, for the 4th of July, and may not be as familiar with the risk of flooding.
And obviously no sense staying, even if you are far away from the water, because a lot of the activities for the 4th of July have been canceled anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you should also be careful, especially if you're in the Kerrville area, because there are so many first responders there trying to get to all of the different rescue sites to pull people, presumably out of the water, who need to be rescued. I mean, there are a lot of people who are still unaccounted for, but there was something that was mentioned in the press conference, and because we've had so much information, that's why we have papers or laptops and our phones here, because we keep getting more updated and fresh information, that there are also a number of water main breaks around Kerrville. Right? So that makes it so that sometimes if you're driving, you can't exactly see. And it's not like, and you might think, okay, well, that's not a big area, but you also don't want to get stuck in that and obviously be in a situation where you need help, because there are first responders out there trying to help other people who are in dire need of help right now as a result of this flooding. But just to let you know that that's what's happening around Kerrville, and it's just adding insult to injury, that first responders have to deal with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point about utilities being affected. People who may be away from the river, they may not have the resources that they need. So it is an absolutely all hands on deck situation with hundreds of first responders and the utilities there in the area trying to get people as safe as possible. Our Garrett Berger went out to one of the reunification centers earlier, and I believe this is an interview that he did with a father whose son was in a cabin along the river. He talked to him about what he knows about his son's safety and trying to be reconnected with him. Take a listen.
What are you doing here today?
I'm waiting for my son to be reintegrated over here.
Okay. Where was your son?
He was at his mom's house on the edge of the river. They woke up at 3:30 with water in the house and went up to the attic to try to get away from the water. Water rose all the way up to the top. They were able to get rescued eventually. They called me because they couldn't get through to 911 because of the system was bogged down. So I called 911 from Austin, and then they patched me over. We got them the address, and they were rescued. Now they were put in a Hunt church that was over there, and we're awaiting them to be moved over here.
Okay. And whereabouts on the river were they, sir?
Right off 39, right on the edge, pretty close to the edge of the river. They have a cabin over there.
In Kerrville or up in Hunt? Sorry.
In Hunt.
In Hunt. Yes. All right. Can you tell me about getting that call, trying to call 911, making sure your son and his mom are okay?
It was a scary moment. Just getting to that point of hearing your 9-year-old son was in an attic with the water rising, and they couldn't get out. They're hearing stuff crashing into the house, and I can't do anything because I'm 2 hours away. And so hearing that they couldn't get through to 911 and making that call as a first responder, it was a pretty easy decision that I made and got them taken care of, and then the other guys took care of the rest and got them rescued within an hour, which was very fast.
And how did you end up here at this location?
As soon as I the word, we jumped in the car and drove down here just to, if they were rescued quickly, to be able to receive them quickly, and they weren't waiting, but also trying to beat the water crossing. So we went to 4 different crossings trying to get to the actual place they were dropped off, and it was just all washed out, or the river was too violent to be able to cross.
All right. Have you been able to talk to them since, or not since you called 911?
We've been in contact with them the entire time. They thankfully had their phones charged and didn't lose battery, so they're still good. They're in good health and condition now. There's 8 of them that are over there, so it was a pretty large group that they rescued.
Okay, what were they doing? Was it out with friends or something, or that's just the family's big?
They were just spending 4th of July on the river, and they're having a good time and enjoying themselves. So, not ready for what happened, but they took care of business and got everything squared away.
All right. I guess how are you feeling right now as you're waiting here?
Anxious, nervous, just ready for him to be back and ready for him to be in a safe place and away from the river and the floodwaters. And as the rain continues and things have kind of slowed up a little bit, we feel a little bit better, but definitely ready for him to be back.
Any word on when you're going to be able to see them?
No, not yet. It's right now. Life safety is and finding the people that are missing is definitely the priority. I was one of the lucky ones to be able to get him here and him rescued. So now we're just waiting, and I'm okay for waiting for other people to be rescued for him to get here.
Good luck, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm glad that your kid's safe.
Thank you.
I don't know if there is a better word to describe the situation that a lot of people are in mentally than to say, I'm anxious, right? A lot of people are feeling a lot of anxiety right now as they're trying to get to their loved ones or hear from their loved ones because the Wi-Fi is down. Cell service is not all that great. It's pretty spotty right now, and it's not just people who are presumably unaccounted for. A lot of people have also lost their homes. So many of those people are in shelters right now. Our reporter, Patty Santos, was in Ingram where she spoke with people earlier who lost their home. Let's listen into that conversation.
We're inside the Ingram Volunteer Department where a lot of the setup, a lot of the people that have been rescued are ending up. Steffi is one of those victims. Tell me, where exactly did you live?
I lived a couple blocks that way in a 1940 cottage that had never been flooded before at the Hill Country Art Foundation.
And you told me you heard banging?
I heard banging about 5 o'clock this morning, and I thought it was a tree limb. I knew we had a long, steady rain and a lot of lightning, but I didn't know it was that kind of rain. And so I went out, I looked out the window, and I had literally water completely around me.
And so you decided it's time to get out, right? You start trying to make an exit, and what happened?
I opened my front door and looked, and my car was starting to be underwater, and my yard was in water, but I thought I could still get through it. So I was trying to throw a few things together and grab my cat and my dog. And that was like an extra 4 minutes. And when I went back and opened the door, the water had come up, and I knew I couldn't move my car. And so I set the stuff aside, and I grabbed my cat and I grabbed my dog and lost a shoe plowing through the water. My cat went off that way. I still don't know where he is. We were trying to get through to another higher ground, and my dog got caught by the water. And I got to safety, and I just had to break in the window until I could, at 7 o'clock, break into another building to call and get help. And they came and got me, and my dog, in the meanwhile, miraculously showed up, and he's alive and well.
Yeah. This is, what's his name?
His name is Nishkin.
Nishkin. And so he's 13, he survived, you survived. You said to myself, there is no way I am dying in a Texas flood.
I'm trying to climb up on the roof and having a hard time. I'm 74 and I'm climbing up on this roof, and I couldn't, and so my brain was just scrambling because it's water and it kills. I don't know what to do. I know I need to get down. I need to do something. I've been through a lot, and I've had lost friends. And I just wasn't, and I feel very blessed considering other lives that have been lost today.
And so the fire department showed up and got you out?
I broke into an office where I could access a phone when there was enough light to see to get in there, called, and literally these guys were over there because it's right down there. Literally in less than 5 minutes, I see emergency vehicles coming in. Yeah. So.
And now you're here, you're so grateful for the help that you've gotten, you made some friends?
I met my buddy Melton here, who was greeting me, helped me get a dry shirt and helped me with my dog. He got food for my dog and water. He's been here for hours. And he's just a great young man, Melton. Melton the man.
Thank you so much, and I am so glad that you are okay, that you survived, and that your dog also made it, but we still have to go check out your home and see how that's looking, okay?
Yeah, Mudville.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And those are the kind of stories that we are hearing here in Ingram this morning and today. And we'll probably be hearing more of these stories. And you can stay with KSAT, of course, to continue to bring you that coverage.
See, we're so happy for that woman that at least she's with her dog. And I do want to say, because it's obviously a big concern, right? When people are eventually rescued and they have an animal with them, what do we do? Well, when Daniela Ibarra spoke with the Red Cross representative about 45 minutes ago or so, that person said that the animals are allowed in the Red Cross shelters, and there are 2 Red Cross connected shelters in the Kerrville area. So that's just something that we want to let people know.
Yeah, and I just want to say a quick shout out to Melton the man, who you heard that lady talk about. I mean, I know that sounds kind of funny, and she was giving him quite literally a pat on the back, but there are so many people who are stepping up to help, even kids in this circumstance. And many kids, we know, 20-something, according to the lieutenant governor, still unaccounted for at Camp Mystic, some area camps. That has been a huge question mark. But this community is coming together. And again, as cheesy as it may sound, literally just being community and giving people a place to stay, giving people a dry shirt, as you just heard. So everybody right now is just trying to lean on each other.
And obviously, a lot of people have been pitching in to help each other out during a time where they don't have a lot of information as to what happened, because we were mentioning the Wi-Fi being out, power out. So all people know is that they open their doors and they see rushing water, and they're going out to higher ground. They're helping out their neighbors, and it's just wonderful to hear all that. But the truth is that we don't need people to get complacent, right? Because especially the areas downstream from the Guadalupe River, those areas, the water there is rising. Adam's been talking about that all day. Now, here's what we do know right now. This is the information that we got a short time ago from Kerr County officials. 13 fatalities so far, but more are expected. We don't have any identification. None of those people have been identified so far. We don't expect that to happen for a while. We know that the Guadalupe River is expected to crest in Spring Branch this evening, sometime around sunset. Adam Caskey, Sarah Spivey, meteorologists, have been talking about that as well, and that's what we're talking about. But even if it stops raining in your area, please, you're not out of the danger zone just yet. Please stay tuned. Listen to our meteorologists as we try to get that information out to you. Emergency crews have been deployed. Something like 400 to 500 emergency crews have been sent to the Hill Country area, especially in Kerrville, to help people with all of the rescue efforts that are underway right now. We don't even know how many of them have taken place. We know shelters and reunification centers, those have also been set up. And Myra, there are a number of them, right? That you have a list of those reunification centers.
Yes, we've got some shelters up here on your screen right now in Comfort. Again, this is an area downstream that will be impacted by this. So take note of that. If you know anybody in this area, if you are in this area, we also have, I believe we have a graphic too of all the shelters in Kerrville listing those reunification centers. Calvary Temple Church, Notre Dame Catholic Church, Shriner University, it's the event center there on campus, the First United Methodist Church as well. And I think the Arcadia Live was listed as a reunification center. I know that's where our Garrett Berger was when he spoke with that father, whose sound bites we shared with you just a few moments ago. So there are a lot of places where people can go right now just to have a dry place, to be. And we heard earlier from the Lieutenant Governor talking about how he has been in touch with the White House. Well, this is Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem tweeting this, putting it on X a little while ago, saying, I've been working throughout the day with Kerr County leaders, state emergency management, and Governor Greg Abbott to get every resource possible to those affected by the flooding. I have activated FEMA resources, federal resources to help those affected and bring Americans in crisis to safety. Pray for Texas.
And that is a very important note that we're seeing there, because even when we heard from Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick just a short time ago, what he said was that this is a state, local, county, and statewide effort right now. But when you see that notice from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, you understand that it is a lot more serious when you have federal resources that are being tapped right now to help all of the people in Hill Country right now and all of those locations. And that's drone video that you're looking at right now. And it just gives us a different view as to the damage and just how quickly that water is traveling. But we know that more areas are expected to flood even more throughout the day. So that's why we keep putting notices out. And Adam keeps talking every few minutes that if you're in any of those areas along the Guadalupe River, please get to safety.
Yeah, and you know, with it being a holiday weekend, so many people, as we've talked about, are headed to area lakes and rivers. Adam, you were talking about Highway 281, obviously a well-traveled stretch of road. You're expecting that water could be up over 281 in the Spring Branch area, is that right?
Yeah, I expect it to be over 281 and flowing over the bridge over the Guadalupe River along 281. Now, you see that video, and I have some more stats here. I was just looking at some of the latest info. And so here's a big picture, okay? You've got Comfort on the left, I-10 right here, Bernie, Comfort. Then you have the Guadalupe River, highlighted in blue here, that flows into Canyon Lake. Canyon Lake should be just fine. It's at 46% full. It can take a big swell of water right now. So the dam should be okay, and Canyon Lake is expected to be able to take this just fine. But what I want to get to is some of the recent water levels, particularly here, Ammons Crossing. This is where and this is just outside of Bergheim, right here where the river bends and then comes back around. Right here on this road and on this bridge, there's a sensor at Ammons Crossing, and it's now at 37 feet, the water level, 37 feet. Just 2 hours ago, it was at 5 feet. It has risen 32 feet in just 2 hours, and no signs of it slowing down quite yet. So then it takes us to the communities upstream, or I should say downstream, where the water is flowing. And that's everybody east of Ammons Crossing over to Oberle Crossing, all the communities here, including but not limited to Guadalupe Bend, that street. You see, have some homes there. Rio Brazos Street, River Forest Drive. You need to get out of those areas that are down low near the Guadalupe River here, because it's flowing this way in the direction of my hand here as it flows eastward, and it's going to continue to swell. It may not be big right now, but it's going to continue to swell. And of course, I'm sure Texas Parks and Wildlife and the rangers at the state parks have gotten to the campers at Guadalupe State Park, which is right on the Kendall-Comal County line. That's this really green area you see here. That's the state park. And right along the river here at the state park, you have a bunch of campgrounds as well. So that's where that's downstream, and that's where the water's flowing, and it's going to be next. And then, of course, all the communities here in Spring Branch that are right on the river expect flooding, and flood waters 10 feet higher than the flood of 98. We reference that because, people like to go back to their memory of some of those floods, and that's one of the more recent ones that people remember. Anyway, that's the situation, and that's going to be peaking at about 37 feet later on tonight, which would cross over Highway 281. We're going to have another update for you in just a couple of minutes. More showers possible, even as we get into tomorrow. Some downpours setting up, I think, by late morning hours.
Okay, Adam, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. We want to reiterate some of the questions about kids camps in this area. Camp Mystic is the one that we heard Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick talking about 20-something children still unaccounted for. A message from the camp went out to Mystic families, said campers are currently being evacuated from Camp Mystic via helicopter in small groups. They will be taken to Ingram School. I'm looking at some messages from our crews that are in this area. They were saying that some of the roads to some of these Ingram schools are not easily traveled right now, as you can understand. These are two campers that we know were at Camp Mystic. We spoke with Ingram Elementary. Okay, we just got word from the control room that it is Ingram Elementary, the elementary school. All right. Is it Ingram Elementary or Ingram High School? I need to have that clarified as soon as somebody can let me know. Okay, so our Daniela is standing by at Ingram Elementary. And these are two campers. I want to point out, we have not spoken with officials, with their parents in a while. So I don't know if those young girls were among a group of kids that have since been rescued. I pray that's the case, but we're going to try to get that clarified. Meantime, Daniela is standing by there at Ingram. We got families behind you, Daniela. Have you been able to talk to anybody out there?
Myra, let me tell you, we just got here about 5-10 minutes ago, so we just set up. That way we could talk to you with what we know so far. I haven't talked to any family since I got here, but we were here earlier today. I talked with several parents, some uncles of some of the campers that you talked about. Two of the parents that I spoke to, two dads, they said that they, at last check, that they had heard that their daughters were safe. They are just waiting here. They want to see their daughters. That way they can take them home. Many of these parents are from Austin. We spoke with some from San Antonio, so they're kind of from all over South and Central Texas. But like you said, this is one of the reunification centers. I want to step out of the way that you can see. A lot of these parents have been here for hours. We were here earlier, I want to say around 11 or noon, and you can see they have chairs now. Earlier they were just standing here waiting. A lot of parents, and this is just the people that are standing outside of the school. We're not allowed to go inside, but there are dozens, if not 100 or so parents and family members waiting inside the school. As for kids that have been dropped off so far, we have not seen that. We have seen helicopters flying in the air, but they're actually going to a command center that's not too far from where we are right now. So far we haven't seen any campers being dropped off here, but of course we're staying out here. We're waiting to see what happens. We did see a school bus drive by, but when I looked, there wasn't anyone inside that school bus. So we don't have an update as of now, but like I said, we're going to be waiting out here, hopefully talking with some more parents. Like I said, it's very emotional for them, so they're not ready to go on camera. A couple of them said that they wanted to wait until they had their kids in their arms. That way, they could talk to us, because that's all they're focused on, is getting their kids back.
Yeah, which we absolutely understand. I mean, I cannot imagine as a parent what those families are going through right now. I know that we're getting a lot of messages with pictures of kids in helicopters that have been rescued, pictures of kids at fire stations, things like that, trying to make their way to areas like this one here at Ingram, Daniela, where families can be reunited. Thank you for that update. Hopefully, a lot of those families that are standing out there waiting will get some good news very soon. You mentioned the buses too. That's something that Lieutenant Governor said, that they have 10 buses standing by, ready to pick up kids and take them to wherever their families might be. It's not just kids from our local area that obviously attend these camps, and even parents that are outside of the area, they're asking people not to rush to Kerrville, not to rush to Hunt, just because of the current state of things.
Well, we do have right now 400 to 500 rescuers right now, or first responders in that area, and so that's what they've been saying. Please stay where you are. They have enough resources, at least as far as that's concerned, to carry out operations right now. And I do want to go back, because we were talking about Camp Mystic. There might be a lot of people maybe not familiar with the area and thinking, why do they keep talking about Camp Mystic? Is because I believe that is the largest camp in that area, usually 750 kids or something like that. It can hold up to that many kids, so it's a popular place for people to send their kids during summer camp. And when the Lieutenant Governor referenced Camp Mystic earlier, he mentioned that there were 20-something children who were unaccounted for, but obviously I think that's the most frustrating part right now. It's the unknowns for a lot of families, friends who still haven't really gotten exact information, because it is impossible for a lot of those crews to get back to first responders, because cell service is so spotty. Wi-Fi isn't that great right now, so we're having to contend with that right now. Now, we talked a moment ago about federal resources right now, the feds jumping in. We know that Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. She put out a statement a short time ago, and now we're hearing from our state's or junior senator, Ted Cruz, and he sent this message out on X saying this: please pray right now for everyone in the Hill Country, especially Camp Mystic. Today, I've spoken with Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, the head of TDEM, and President Trump. Multiple helicopters are performing search and rescue. President Trump committed anything that Texas needs.
This will obviously be making national news. It'll be something that people across the country are talking about. Right now, we know that the focus is, as we've heard from first responders, those in Kerrville, the people whose homes have quite literally, as we've shown you, been swept off their foundations, the people whose lives have been lost. That last update was 13 people, 13 fatalities in this situation, and the people who are still missing. So this is an effort that has been going on for more than 12 hours now. And just like you mentioned, Stephanie, just the anxiety, the painstaking process of waiting to hear whether your loved one is safe, whether your home is safe, whether the people in your lives, your business, whether all of that will be the same tomorrow.
Right. And there are so many things complicating this search right now, starting with the fact that when the water started to rise early this morning, people were asleep. When they're asleep, especially in those areas, although it is beautiful out there, at nighttime, it's especially dark. So people don't exactly know where to go. That's one thing. The other thing is that there are a lot of RVs in that area, which is something else. So they're not really steady on the ground, and that's another issue. You have a lot of people who moved to Kerrville. I've spoken with Sharon Davis. Okay. She's one woman that I speak with. That I interviewed her for my series, Your Voice South Texas. I checked up on her. She lives in an RV. She said, you know what? I don't want to live in a house. I don't want to deal with all that. I want to live in a remote area. Thank God. Yeah. She and her husband are okay, but the point is that you have a lot of people in these areas that just are really hard to get in touch with right now. And the other frustrating part is that we don't know exactly how many people are around there, because I keep mentioning the population number, but 25,000 people live in Kerrville year-round, but we don't know how many people are in that area right now because of the 4th of July holiday. A lot of people staying at Verbos or Airbnbs or hotels in that area because of the holiday, so it's just hard to gauge.
Yeah, or people just right along the river itself, Adam. I mean, that's something that you have been talking about, just how fast this water is rising and is still rising in a lot of places downstream.
It is rising quickly now. Here's from KSAT Connect. This is near Sisterdale in Kendall County, and this, I believe, is looking north. Sisterdale Road, the bridge that typically spans many feet up and over the river, is completely inundated, and the water is way up on the bank. So this is, there we go. So the river flows left to right here on the screen, and you see all the debris, of course, on the guardrails along that river. So this is Sisterdale Road at the Guadalupe River, to give you a sense of where we're looking at. And this is an area that's already seen basically that crest that essentially is just west of that river gauge I was recently talking about. The river gauge at Amon's Crossing that I was talking about, that's now up to 39.5 feet and was at 5.5 feet just at 2:30 p.m. And it's already up at almost 40 feet. So the Sisterdale one, the video I just showed you, just east of I-10, give you your bearings here, Comfort on the far left-hand side, and then Sisterdale here in the river crossing, this is where we were looking. Right here, looking north, right at this exact spot, right here where the Sisterdale Road crosses over the Guadalupe River. We were looking northbound with the water flowing left to right. It's inundated up and over that bridge and now into this field area, and of course, communities even farther downstream. The rain is coming to an end. It's slowly coming to an end. It's very light in nature. It's the swell of water that we're watching as it heads towards Spring Branch. Where at Spring Branch and even then all the way toward Canyon Lake, you're going to get that big, quick swell later on this evening. At 281 at Spring Branch, at that probably by 8, 9 o'clock, you'll see that really quick rise in the water level. It'll be subtle at first, and then it's going to quickly rise with what I've been telling you, the one upstream at Amon's Crossing, that has already risen to nearly 40 feet from 5 feet earlier today. Now here's a look at the radar from earlier today, and you notice that heavy action out there that was at the headwaters in Kerr County, and that's where this all began. The very heavy rainfall last night on into this morning just focused right at the headwaters of the Guadalupe River. Medina River being impacted, yes, and there's flooding along the Medina River. It's just a lot more pronounced because this heavy rainfall was right over the headwaters and where basically the Guadalupe River starts, which is basically a series of springs out there. And then going forward, more rain showers possible even on into tomorrow as well. The action we have right now, that's generally fizzling out. But then we have this trough axis that's in place, and that could be the focal point of redevelopment as we get into tomorrow, redeveloping showers and downpours. So notice even later on tonight, some pockets of rain, but then we get into tomorrow morning, and along that kind of focal point of upper level support, we could have anywhere from I-35 to I-10, more heavy downpours that could lead to some localized flash flooding. So another concern for travelers in the hill country, again, as we get into tomorrow with more showers on the way. We'll take a close look at some of those river levels and another look at the Guadalupe and updated forecast of that hydrograph in just a bit.
All right, thanks, Adam. I want to go back to our information about Camp Mystic. That is one of the many camps that we've been talking about in the Kerr County area right along the Guadalupe River. That's the one where state and local officials say that they have reports of 20 plus children, at least as of an hour plus ago. Parents still looking to be reunified with at least 20 plus kids. This was an email sent out to parents saying Mystic families, campers are currently being evacuated via helicopter in small groups. They will be taken to Ingram School. We will update you as we know more. We heard from the lieutenant governor who said of all the other camps in the area, they did not have any reports that kids were missing from other camps. We showed you a picture earlier of Camp La Junta where it looked like a building. I don't know if that was a cabin, but was underwater. I've received some reports that all campers there have been accounted for.
And now we have to go to these safety tips, from TxDOT. Obviously, they're telling people to avoid flooded roads, but this isn't in particular to people in Kerr County, Kendall, and Bandera counties, because those are the areas where we're seeing flooding. The Texas Department of Transportation urging people to use extreme caution and to never drive through flooded roadways. Obviously, there's that famous catchphrase that we hear all the time, turn around, don't drown. I almost think that we should come up with a new one because I feel like it just gets said so much that I'm not sure that people necessarily heed that warning. But the other thing is never drive through water-covered roadways, because the fact is you may not know if you don't see the bottom of if you don't see the road, then you're not going to really be able to know what you're going to be driving through. And also, whenever there's flooding, and we even saw this around the San Antonio area a few weeks ago, when there's a lot of water and the force of the water that could damage the infrastructure, those roads could break up and just there could be a lot of damage there. You don't want to get in trouble being stuck in an area like that.
Yeah, especially as we're talking about, and you're hearing Adam mention the fact that water is going to be rising downstream. The later we get into this evening, once the sun goes down, you can't tell how deep water is, period, and you especially can't tell at night. So that's why we want to mention those tips from TxDOT. It may seem like common sense to a lot of folks. You've heard us say that turn around, don't drown. But that's why we're reminding everybody, especially if you're traveling to meet up with family or friends tonight for the 4th, hoping for some sparklers and fireworks and things like that. Be wary, be careful if you are driving anywhere in the area of the Guadalupe River.
And the other thing that this reminds me of is that even if you don't know anybody directly in that area of Kerr County, Bandera, or anything like that, this disaster that we're watching in the Hill Country, it affects all of us. Why? Another reason is just because obviously this is devastating. These are our neighbors, but also you have so many resources from Bexar County, from other surrounding areas that are being deployed to those areas right now. We have first responders in those areas trying to help out those people, performing rescues and all that. So there's a chance that if you get in trouble in maybe another area where you're not even